Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 26th of February, 2023. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
We knows.
And Robert Kemp.
You knows.
We knows? Like winos?
So as soon as I said that, I was like, that just sounds like some kind of weird food brand.
We knows.
We knows. Going down to the we knows.
have a lovely wino.
I mean,
a wino isn't. It's a person that likes wine, right? Is a
Yes.
wino. But what's a wino?
Someone
Somebody who likes hot dogs.
who used
You
to
don't know.
drink wine whilst interacting with the Miiverse. Like,
Someone who drives an Oscar Mayer Wienermobile.
Yep, exactly.
A wino.
a Wino GT.
Yeah, the
That
GT
also
there.
does kind of sound like a car. A really
really
bad
super-
car, probably.
Yeah,
Souped up versions of those Wienermobiles.
probably a Dacia. The Dacia Wino.
Yeah, it sounds like a car in Grand Theft Auto, doesn't it? Like a parody of a real car brand.
Yes.
We knows.
Ford Wino pickup. Like,
Gran Torino.
no, it'd have to be an Italian car, right? If it was
Yes.
like a Wino,
Yeah,
like
that's true.
like a Fiat Wino. Fiat Wino 500 City Edition.
What's with the Fiat Panda? It's not very Italian sounding.
No, that is like the. I mean, what else have the Fiat? Yeah, they've had what other Fiats? There's the 500. There is the Punto, the Cinquecento.
Yeah, see, that sounds Italian. Punto sounds Italian. Panda.
Panda. Yeah, Panda is the outlier.
Yeah. Why didn't they call it Bambino or Piccolo or something?
Piccolo.
Do we know the Italian word for panda? Is it just panda? Is that what?
I mean,
is that
Maybe
it?
that's it.
could
Maybe
be,
that's
yeah.
it.
Panda.
Yeah.
You just have to
I mean,
say
they
it
don't
with-
have pandas, so I mean, no one does apart from China. So
Yeah.
maybe they.
Well, unless panda means something else in Italian.
Or there's a similar word that means something bad.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
I don't think I know the word for panda in any languages other than English.
Well, or maybe you do, and that's the point.
Panda.
Oh, it's all panda.
Yeah.
You just do it in an accent. Panda. That's, thanks, Rob.
Well, I think that panda might actually be the word for panda in Japanese.
Probably. Well, I mean,
Chinese.
Japanese does that all the time, though. They're especially good at just integrating foreign words
Yeah.
directly.
One
They
like
have
one,
pandas in Japan.
one of my favorite things. One of my most favorite and annoying things about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is that for some reason the translation they often like to change people's names or the names of so the subtitles read differently to how the characters are very clearly saying them.
Okay.
So there's there's a character called FF in Stone Ocean who for some reason they call her FF in the subtitles, but they always say Foo Fighter. And it's like, well, maybe they couldn't use the phrase Foo Fighter.
Okay. Yeah, I can see why you might want to change that, maybe.
Oh, maybe. Because Foo Fighter, obviously, the band is named after an actual thing,
Yeah.
right?
And there's more pointlessly, there's a character called Weather Report. Well, they say Weather Reporto, and but the subtitle is Weather Forecast, and I'm like, why did you change that?
That's real weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't have nearly as good flow to that, to them just saying it.
Yeah, it happens loads, and it's really quite annoying.
And who even calls it a weather forecast apart from English?
English,
It's not like
yeah.
it's American English.
Weather Report would be more American, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I think it happens in Yakuza as well. They translate something. Well, they say the phrase "race battle" when when I'm doing a taxi race,
Right.
in Kiryu's part, and then they don't translate it as race battle.
I wonder why. We don't want a race war. That would be
Oh, okay. Why has that never occurred to me?
But then that's not what that. I mean, it kind of doesn't make sense even as saying it in the car context. Like, I guess it is kind of a. You just call it a race. You don't need to call it a race battle.
Race battle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't call it a race battle. That's bad. Yeah, that's just coincidental.
I
but yeah.
see. I didn't.
I can kind of see that.
Yeah. Okay. I get it now. I get it. That did not occur to me at all. Yeah,
we don't want to helter skelter up in your Yakuza.
Yeah, it's definitely things like that, where obviously the localization guys are having to work overtime to make things in Japanese work, right? But there is the occasional time where you can clearly hear them say someone's name and that's not in the translation, and you're like, well, okay, have you just reordered how this script works? And it's like, probably.
Well, in some of those cases, it's like, isn't it more important in Japanese that you have to like actually say the person you're referring to more than in English, where you can just get away with saying like talking at
Him
someone
and her in context and all that stuff. Yeah. There's an awful lot more. Even in just the moments where there's like, it's kind of used as as an exclamation a lot more, right? It's like when someone says something. I'm going to say it, poignant. People just sit there for it and just go like Kiryu, or they have a moment where it's like, instead of just being like man or dude or something like that, it's always their name, right? It's like,
I'm not sure that's exactly the same context.
No, it's not the same thing, but they do that a lot as well. Like Akiyama-san, Haruka. It's just used as a sort of, yeah. Hey, I'm listening, I guess. It's just, I'm just going to say your name.
So Fiat Pandas.
Fiat Pandas, yeah.
This has been a very classical podcast intro. We've had the word segment. Rob said poignant.
You gotta have the
We're all
word
good.
segment. Poignant. Got to get that in there. The classics.
It's been a while since we've had a poignant moment.
That's true. Yeah, felt poignant.
But either both in the spirit and in actual. Okay, word talk. I can't remember the word for when you actually like. Isn't there a word for like when you actually just say a word, like to vocalize it? There's a sort of more succinct way of saying that, right?
Well, as opposed to
utter, I suppose.
Down.
Utter is probably what
utterance.
I was looking for. Yeah, an utterance of poignant.
Indeed, there was an utterance.
It was an utterance.
You had a punto, and that was
I had a
bad.
punto. It was
real
it's
bad.
the worst car I've ever owned.
Can you imagine how much,
not many though.
What a Panda would be like if a Punto was that bad? That's even worse, surely.
Really modern bad though, surely.
Funny story. My mum used to have a Panda. So
yeah. And how did it compare with the Punto?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention when I was that young.
No.
So I think the Panda came before our Nissan. Oh, what was it? It was I can't even remember what that thing was called, but it was brown people carrier looking thing that was like as boxy as they come. You know how the Ioniq 5
Space
kind of
wagon
made
thing.
like angular boxy cars cool. This was not that, but it was like
Right,
it had the
right.
same sort of like just straight edges. I
Yeah.
can't remember what that thing was called now. But yeah, and we had that. And then we had a space wagon. That was what I think that the Nissan was where I was sort of paying attention. I really don't remember the Panda all that much, other than it being white and having like a black and whitey sort of gradient stripe down the side, sort of in a dither pattern. I remember that. It was kind of like funky for a early 90s car.
The classic jazz pattern.
Dither? Dither is jazz now.
Oh, was it dithered?
Yeah, sort of like a dithered black and white, almost like again, I can't remember the word for it, but the sort of pattern they used to like dither newspaper, like
Oh right, okay.
that sort of dot, but only in black and white rather than
Like the Ben Day dots.
something like that.
No, those are coloured. Oh well, anyway.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's that sort of patterning anyway. That sort of went for a gradient. Don't really remember that too much.
I remember my mum had a red Renault 5 called Eric, after Eric Cantona. Some reason. I'm not quite sure why, but anyway, that was quite cool for a tiny car, tiny cheap car.
Friend of mine had a Renault 5.
Renault 5, yeah.
We used to joke that we could smell the clutch burning all the time. But...
Oh, definitely, yeah. Very French.
So French.
So French.
I think I've owned a French car. What have I had? I've had a Mini, a Punto, and then a billion Focuses.
But you had an actual Mini, not a BMW.
Oh, yeah,
Mini.
not a Beamer, but yeah, a Mini Mayfair.
Yeah.
Only had 4 gears and 900 cc's of engine.
Oh, yeah.
4 gears, baby.
And you were lucky if the high beams came on.
Yep. And my favourite feature, the heating panel, which was a massive stick that just stuck out. And if you tried to change it, instead of the knob moving, the rest of the panel moved.
The whole panel moved. That was great.
Oh, I love that car. Still slightly
yeah,
bitter at my mum getting rid of it while we were at uni.
Mm.
She was all like, "Oh, you need a better car for driving this distance." And I'm like, she wasn't wrong. Driving the Mini all the way to...
Well, you wouldn't be able to get all your stuff in the Mini.
No, absolutely not. It would have been an absolute nightmare. But I wish she kept it and, then we just got me another car. Or we could have sorted out getting me a second car.
It would have been in a god-awful state by the time you got back.
I mean, maybe. It had only been 3 years.
Yeah, that Mini wasn't in a great state to start with.
No.
You're not
3
going to
years
join
of
the
just sitting there.
Mini Collectors Owners Club in the future? Get a second car or third car or whatever.
It'd be crazy. I mean, it wasn't too hard to get hold of an old Mini
At the time.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
But in that 20 years, old Minis are so much rarer now. I don't know if something happened, but I used to see them all the time. And I can't remember the last time I saw an old Mini.
No. I see them sometimes in London, but they're clearly part of a club.
Excuse me, I've hit myself in the wrong hole.
Rob has not succeeded at drinking a beer out of the bottle.
Like a connoisseur. I'm okay.
Okay.
Back in the room. Anyway, so what's going on?
I got some proper kitchen bitching for you.
All right.
Hooray.
Of all the things you need when you're a new father, new parents, and you have a child that basically likes to piss everywhere.
Fluids come out of it.
Fluids are ejected, sometimes at speed. The thing you value quite a lot is your washing machine. Ours has died, or it's taken.
No.
Well, it's not dead, but it's taken now as the time it decided. You know what? I'm going to leak too.
Great timing.
Fluids can't even stay inside the washing machine.
No, it's like I looked at Miles, and I thought I can do that. This is the way I'm gonna roll. Yeah, so the washing machine's a bit out of action, which is a bit of a problem. Rather than replace it because it's a good washing machine, we're going to try and actually get it repaired. But I don't know what that involves. I don't know quite how you. I don't know how you take one of those apart and go ferreting around, presumably in the billions of, or not billions, but number of pipes to try and find which one.
Well, if it's just leaking, there's not really that many places that it can come from.
It's got to be a pipe or
a pipe or a seal.
Out of
it's
the drum
like
itself.
One of those two things.
Yeah. But even if I didn't know that, I don't know how I'd go about replacing it. So,
you don't do that. Yeah, you get an actual washing machine repair person to do that.
Also, given our history with plumbing in general and the mishaps that involves when we try and do it ourselves,
Man, the tap in our bathroom had been really slowly dripping for ages, and when it got fixed, the tap head got put on a different angle, and I just found that so distracting for a week. Whereas every time I'd reach to turn it, it's this feels wrong because it's not aligned the same way it used to be.
Oh, I see. Just where the nodules usually sit.
Yeah,
just it's a few degrees.
Well, it's not
out.
a few degrees out. It's 45 degrees out.
I don't know that I would notice that.
It's because it's not technically a twist tap. It's like a lever tap, but it has a twist tap on it, basically. So it functions like a lever tap. It only has a 90-degree twist or whatever.
I see.
But it's just designed like a traditional tap, which therefore means that I'm so used to the position of those things where it's fully closed or fully open that I just immediately felt it, and it was this is wrong.
I can see that. Yeah.
And if you're worried about visuals, it also looks weird because they're not aligned.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, we said since we moved into this place, we actually probably need to replace all of the faucets.
I was with the someone. I went for a drink with someone, 25-year-old girl, and she said faucet, and I was like, "You mean tap, you maniac?"
Yeah.
Well, I
She
mean-
was like, "No, surely." She was like, "Surely faucet is." Like, she was trying to defend it, and she was like, "Surely that's like a technical part of the tap is the faucet or something." And I was like,
No,
"Are
it's
you a plumber or something?" Like, and then I went and looked it up afterwards. It's like, no, that's just American for tap. Just stop saying faucet.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of with her because I've accidentally started saying that instead of tap.
No,
I don't know
bloody
why.
Americanisms.
I mean, you know why? Because of the Americans. And I mean, you said
damn
like it was like a young person, as if that what was the less likely person to be Americanized.
No, I was saying but I think that is why.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I presume because she's younger, she's more likely to be Americanized. But that's annoying. They're taking away our.
They're taking away our proper words. I mean, it's not at least
tap.
in the case of tap. It's like this is one of the cases where it's actually like a simpler word for us.
Yeah, tap is way better than faucet.
In fairness, I haven't heard. There's the whole classic American argument, right, is about restroom, isn't it? And like how that's a stupid word,
Right.
Like, and it should be just either your bathroom or your toilet or something. And it, like, actually, like, weirdly enough, I think that has gone away. I can't. Like, in the same way, I can't remember the last time I saw an old Mini. I'm struggling to remember the last time I heard an American say restroom and just like called it a bathroom or a toilet. Like, maybe we've pushed that over. Like, has restroom gone away?
Because restroom is a bit ridiculous because it's like what do you call it? It's like similar to that euphemism treadmill where it's like you know you get further and further away from the reality of the disgustingness of the actual thing.
Well,
you know,
I
and
mean,
it becomes more and more abstract
I
to
guess.
the point where you don't even know what it is, like restaurant, but like water closet, they say, right?
Sure.
WC and stuff like that. And
But water closet is like super old school though. That's like.
Yeah.
That's like a very euphemistic but very descriptive of like it's a closet and then there's water involved.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
It's a small room with some fluids.
But you can understand why it's like you don't, you know, we're naming the room after the actual thing in the room where you have to do business. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean that
It's like,
helps.
like the bath,
Yeah, bathroom or
whatever,
just the toilet.
or whatever. But like you can understand why they wanted but somebody was like, oh, that's a bit uncouth. Let's think of a name for the room where it's not so explicit what happens in there.
Ensuite.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's like the most obscure
Yeah.
because it doesn't describe anything about the room at all.
It just means
it's just like it's next to another room.
Attached, yeah. Attached, yeah. I suppose presumably you could have any kind of room en suite to another room.
Yeah.
It's just implied that it's a
Or like
bathroom.
those terrible old houses where you like have an extra bed. The only way to the back bedroom is through another bedroom. It's like it's an ensuite
Yeah.
bedroom. It's a bedroom
That's
with an
not
ensuite
good.
bedroom.
You don't want that. Yeah.
Or you just call it a giant walk-in closet.
Walk-in bedroom.
Walk-in bedroom, like every bedroom.
What do you say though? Because I'm definitely fully British when I say
Fully British.
I'm about to go. If I say, excuse me, I'm going to go to the toilet or whatever, I say like, just pop to the loo.
Yeah.
I say loo. I
Yeah.
always say loo.
Definitely.
Pop to the loo.
Lou is a good one. I like the loo.
But then
I
obviously,
like a loo.
It's good to say loo. Loo is good. Very British.
It's kind of loo.
Nip to the loo. Pop
Nip.
to the loo.
Yeah, I could nip.
And there used to be euphemisms like my nana would say spend a penny and
Yeah.
euphemisms
yeah.
like that. But don't use
Which
anything.
immediately makes me think of that QI round from like really ancient series of QI. So it's the spend a penny round.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, I think I missed. Did you reveal the name there in the middle? I was waiting for the bloody name, and I think you said
I
it.
did. Yes, I did. Right in the middle, casually in the middle. He is officially going to be Miles now.
He's Miles. Wow.
Miles and Miles of Miles.
Miles. Like, that's obviously a cool reference, like Miles Davis. Nothing to do with Sonic.
Sonic, yeah.
I mean, you got there eventually. We've had plenty of things like that. The runners all think it's like, oh, like that's appropriate. Like he's going to be a runner. And it's like, no.
That's very not true.
And I'm like, no, it's not entirely what I was thinking.
Chief O'Brien from Star Trek. Is that what you were thinking?
Is he Miles O'Brien?
Miles O'Brien.
Miles O'Brien. Okay.
Miles
yeah.
Morales.
So I've had a couple people say it's a Spider-Man reference.
Right, yeah.
My brother immediately thought it was a Sonic reference.
Of course.
Oh, well, that's what I thought. Really.
Like darn tootin'.
Yeah. Okay, it's suitably obscure Sonic reference though. It's not like it's called Tails or
No,
something.
it's not super mainstream. Like
No.
So were you going to have Amy if it was a girl?
oh no,
Or Rose?
No.
I think Rose might have.
Rose
actually
is
been
a
on the
nice
list.
name.
Yeah.
That's a nice name. I like Rose.
Mm.
But yeah, Miles Davis, very cool.
Get your trumpet out, mate.
Yeah,
Start up a jazz band.
Oh hell yeah!
nice.
Oh, if I get to just
Great.
do that every time I walk, if he does pick up an instrument that is jazzy, and I can just walk into a room and go nice, I'll be so happy.
Nice.
I'll look to a non-existent camera. Just
Great.
nice.
Okay, cool.
I think we were saying before we recorded the last Sonic Lost World thing. I've been watching quite a bit of Far Show. Just happened to catch some on UK TV Gold. So,
It must be well dated now.
oh, it's got the odd thing that doesn't quite work anymore, but most of it is still pretty funny.
To us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely sort of like memory at play on some of them. Where
Yeah.
it's just like you remember them and you remember laughing at it, and that's what makes you laugh at it again,
Yeah.
rather than it actually being funny in the modern sense. It's strange, but like even little things like there was even the last episode I watched had I don't think it was one of the greatest jazz club sketches,
Right. Yeah.
but it just had him do a fairly normal intro, and he did a nice just the once, and then the skit was just this person playing a xylophone, and the ends of the sticks come off, and there's like that was it, and it's like
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's not
like
actually the best. Yeah.
it's like it's so
format for a
simple,
sketch.
but why is that? That did make me chuckle a little, but it's like it's not the best sketch in the world, but it's like that's surprisingly okay. or in fairness, we've been referring to the Baby Miles as Badger quite a bit. So like,
Yeah.
of course, when Badger Watch comes on, it's like, yeah, okay, that now has extra weight. Whilst Ian Fleming coughs his way out of a sequence. Far Show. Talk about things we've been watching. Here we go, segue.
Yeah.
I watched that there, Wakanda Forever, a couple of
I
days
haven't
ago.
seen that. Yeah, I heard it's so good.
I mean,
By the current standard of Marvel, I mean, which is
I don't know, man.
somewhat.
Like, other than the obviously fitting tribute to Chadwick Boseman that is all over this thing, and in fairness, that's kind of well done. I can't fault them there.
Okay, that's good.
It's not a good film. I don't get
Right.
it. I don't get like is it just like are people slightly like overshadowed by the Boseman thing, and it's like, oh, it has to be good, blah blah blah, and
Maybe,
and, like
maybe.
because I don't want to undersell the impact of Black Panther, the first film. That was kind of a cultural event, right, for a lot of people.
Oh
I
yeah, it
don't
was
want to.
massive. Yeah,
I don't want to disrespect.
but that was quite good. I mean,
It was quite good,
It wasn't as good as the hype, suggested, but like it was good.
No, but I just found Wakanda Forever quite messy. Like nothing. It felt didn't. I never felt like anything really mattered during it, and I didn't feel the stakes. I didn't feel the bad guy Namor was just kind of weak and
Right.
and not uninteresting. Yeah, I just found the whole thing a bit lame, and I seem to be in the minority there. Like I don't know. I don't think I've got Marvel fatigue per se. I still like a good Marvel film, but the recent batch of them just something feels off. I don't know
I've
quite.
started missing them consistently now. I think it's only because I was with you that I watched the
Multiverse.
the Doctor Strange one, but I missed Thor: Love and Thunder. Can't be bothered.
That was
I've
okay.
missed,
Actually, that was
missed
out
the
of the
Wakanda one.
out of the recent stuff.
Yeah.
Love and Thunder was all right. That was still
Yeah,
that was still a Marvel film to me.
Yeah.
But I just watched that trailer for like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and I love those first two. Like Volume 1 and Volume 2 are
that could
great.
be good.
But Volume 3, the way they're trailing Volume 3 is a bit is in a sort of epic kind of way, right? They're being like, this all seems like that you're training this as a super serious installment, and I'm like, oh no,
Right.
oh no,
That's not the point of that.
yeah, are you breaking it already? You're not selling me on this. I don't know. I think Marvel's in a tricky spot. It's had the power creep. Yeah. It's reached the power creep problem, right? And it's just like,
it's where we need to destroy the whole universe.
Yeah, nothing is
more so than
the problem with the multiverse is nothing matters in any one universe. Yeah, classically, but that always happens.
It's just got to the point where it's hard to believe the stakes anymore, right? It's like it's just got a bit, and then it gets dull as a result. You're not invested.
I'm not gonna. Can't be bothered with Ant-Man either. That's the one that's just come out, right?
Yeah, and again, that seems to be having a sort of mixed. That one feels more mixed than Wakanda Forever, from what I've been.
Yeah, it's rotten on the Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, is it?
Tomatoes, which is only the second time after Eternals that's happened.
That first Ant-Man film's fun. I like that.
Oh well, yeah. The problem with that is
as well.
The problem with the first Ant-Man film is it is fun, but it was going to be so much better, and that's what's annoying about it. Is like, if you know the history, you know it was going to be an Edgar Wright film.
Right, yeah.
And it got screwed up in the development or whatever, so it's just annoying. It should have been weirder, basically, and you can see parts of it like the whole sequence with the Thomas the Tank Engine train set was obviously straight out of the Edgar Wright script or whatever, and you can see they've botched it with a conventional, quite boring, Marvel film, and with just parts of what they did or whatever, and it could have been really cool, but it's a shame. Oh well, never mind. But Paul Rudd can carry anything, so I mean.
Oh yeah. And the world's happiest Mexican is in it. So. Can't complain. Need more of him. Yeah, so I
can't remember much about the second one.
No, I mean, that's the one with Ghost as the bad guy, and it's definitely not as memorable a film. Because it sort of brings back the whole family pit and get involved, right? That was
right. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I'll tell you what the most annoying thing about Wakanda Forever is, right? Like, it's got this Shuri, is obviously like a child protege scientist from Wakanda. That's kind of her whole deal. So what do they need? Oh, let's introduce yet another 19-year-old child protege that apparently has developed the one device that can detect vibranium from a distance. So they're using it to scour the ocean floor to find stuff. And and by the way, she's just built an Iron Man suit because people can do that now.
Right.
And it's just like, it's just okay, so you've just totally like shat all over Iron Man in some way, and of course, and she seems, other than the fact that she's made this detector machine, the fact that she then remains in the film is utterly pointless. Like, there's no point in her being there as a character. That, like, supposedly that character is Ironheart, which is a Marvel thing, but sort of makes sense why it's an Iron Man suit, I guess. But I don't know. Just didn't work. It just seemed like a pointless character to be there. Like,
I mean, I know it's a comic or whatever, but the Iron Man's superpower is he has a superpower, which is, I understand that he's just a normal human, but actually he has a superpower, which is, for some reason, he's the only person who can. Yeah, but it's not just that he's a genius and can make plans for amazing stuff. For some reason, he's the only person that can construct them once the plans are made, which is bizarre. Like, in the real world, like that knowledge would proliferate, and that was the point of the first film. Was like what's his name, the dude or whatever,
dude
who's the bad guy in the first one is
sure. The other Stark employee, I can't remember his name.
Well, made his own Iron Man suits from the plans or whatever, and it's like, well, that would be a constant threat for Iron Man, that someone would steal his technology.
Someone would just do it, yeah. But I guess we've got to the point now where someone without the plans can just make stuff in a garage.
Well, he made the original one in a cave, so I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
but he wasn't 19. I don't know. Maybe that's
perhaps
the bit that bothers me a little bit, and it's not just a garage either. This kid has a whole bloody warehouse to herself. It seems it's just weird. It's slightly off. It just makes the whole thing as unbelievable as Marvel should be.
Yeah.
It's just straying that little bit further away from like at least humans being believable in some way.
I think it's way past the point where it's like you can pick and choose now. There's so much Marvel that you can just be like, oh, this one happens to be good, but you don't have to see all of them anymore.
There are fewer films that have continuity, at the moment. Anyway, like the only real continuity for Wakanda Forever is that hey, we could the Americans are trying to detect vibranium, and there's a new bad guy presence that may be a problem in the future, and that's all you really learn from it. That's it. You're not going to miss it, really. It's not going to. But then you get. But then you just don't know that, I suppose, from the outside, right? You don't know which ones are important and which ones aren't. In that respect, it's like if you were just following the films, how would you know that WandaVision is actually critical to you understanding Doctor Strange? Yeah.
I don't know. Bloody Marvel. Well, it's Star Wars next week, isn't it?
Well,
it's Mandalorian.
No,
Mando's back, so that'll do.
They rescue it after Boba Fett,
Yeah, well, I think they will. Boba Fett was well bad, but
well,
never mind.
I'm still watching She-Hulk. We're not like binging it at all. We've only watched like 1 or 2 more episodes since we last talked about it, but still enjoying it.
Yeah,
good bit of Wong action. And
I can't believe that. I already said this, but I can't believe that character kept spoiling The Sopranos.
Oh, I know. that's hilarious.
Stop it. I realise it's like a 24-year-old show, but like some people haven't seen it.
Yeah. I thought that was hilarious. I'm liking She-Hulk. It's good. And as you may have gathered, I've had the opportunity to watch quite a lot more JoJo, and earlier, and I'm near the end of Stone Ocean now, and I hear there's another JoJo manga being written. I don't know if it's turned into anime yet. Like JoJo Lands will come afterwards. So there's more. That thing is getting less good as it goes on.
I'm sure
it's just one of those things where its rules don't make no. Like it was. I think I've said this exact thing before. Stop me if I have, but like it seemed like in the early days of JoJo that it was ridiculous, but it at least had a sense of setting up its rule set and then somewhat sticking to it. Whereas now that the current series seems to have like when you meet a new bad guy or whatever, they set up the rules for him and then immediately break them within the same episode, and it's like wait what? And it also seems to go out of its way to try and be educational about the most random things, like. Let's randomly talk about this African poisonous frog and give you some detail on why it's a big deal. And it's like, no, is it relevant to the plot? Well, only vaguely. You could have just left it at it's a poisonous frog. It's a stupid show. You could probably stop after Stardust Crusaders.
Probably.
Hey, did you see that? Things like Death Note and Naruto and stuff like that are going like free to watch on YouTube.
Weird. I mean, I guess they're.
Oh really?
I think some of them are hella old.
Yeah.
At this point.
Isn't there aren't they making another like live action Death Note attempt?
Oh, are they?
I think I saw somebody's trying to do.
Presumably not Netflix this time.
I don't know who's doing it now.
Oh, but
because there's already
how do you beat Willem Dafoe as
well,
as
I know
exactly.
Guy? He's the perfect casting. Yeah, I can't remember where I read that.
I suppose we better check out that new Trigun.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm not convinced. Like I thought I was slightly more hype on it until I saw that first trailer, and I was like, oh no, this perhaps isn't flying. I have to know. We watched Sonic Prime. We should talk about Sonic Prime.
Yeah, we haven't actually managed to get to that on the podcast.
Yeah. We've watched the current all of the currently available series of Sonic Prime on Netflix.
The Lord knows if they're going to continue it.
It's so weird, isn't it? Because it's like it's dubbed as a season, or like it's 8 episodes, and
well, I mean,
it sort of just doesn't go any. It doesn't end at a great place. It's nothing is resolved at all.
As much as like Netflix like to cancel things between seasons, this doesn't even feel. This feels like it was cancelled before the season actually finished.
Yeah.
Assuming it has been cancelled, I don't actually know.
I haven't heard anything about it being cancelled, but like I get the feeling this is one of those like they might deliver it in 2 halves kind of deal, like depending on how the pipeline for making the CG works, or Anyway, that's a weird show. Like,
Yeah.
it seems to...
Sonic Prime, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of relies on you having, I suppose, a fair amount of Sonic lore knowledge. Like, surprisingly more than I was expecting.
I guess.
But it's also just, like, oddly structured, right? It's like, have a brief conversation that makes very little sense, go to a fight sequence, have a little bit more brief, go to a fight sequence.
Well, the problem is that they have a tendency to, like, spend too much time just running, which, you know, it's Sonic and that's kind of his thing, but like they spend it's just slightly too long on every time they do it, and that includes fight sequences as well. It's just they're always just a little bit too long. It's like we're doing this thing for slightly too long in between the conversation parts.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of travelling. Well, I say there's an awful lot. There isn't a huge
No, they don't
amount of
really go
travelling,
anywhere.
yeah.
They run around the same place a lot for a long time, slightly too long a time.
It's like too long time. Most of the
And also, he says "gotta go fast" slightly too often.
he says that quite a
Like,
bit.
you can get away with it a couple of times, but we don't need that to be the catchphrase.
It just doesn't even capture Sega's own tone right for the Sonic games. Like Sonic Boom is a much
I
closer.
mean, it's not terrible, and
it's not terrible.
and obviously the multiverse aspect of it, and like remixing the characters into the different environments, that sort of works.
It's kind of fun.
Apart from maybe Rouge, who was just always the same.
Yeah, that's kind of true, actually. Yeah. Although she was a bit dumb.
Although I guess
they were all kind of stupid in
Yes.
Pirate World.
But I guess like they sort of use her to be the one who explains what's going on in each world, so I guess they kind of needed that. She's always the generically, vaguely aware of what's going on person.
Yes, yeah. I think the problem I'm having with it is that it just doesn't... Having finished all of Sonic Boom now,
Yeah.
because I did that as well, it's just like it doesn't... It's not nearly as well written as Sonic Boom. Sonic
no.
Boom's actually really good. Like, you know,
that's because-
Dumb
that's-
Knuckles is a legend.
But that's because Sonic Boom is meant to be fully episodic and it's based on the jokes. Whereas this is like a series
Yeah.
and it's not meant to be funny.
But then, yeah,
really.
well, it's sort of.
I mean,
yeah.
there's comedy, but it's not,
It's not very good comedy.
no. But it's not meant to be funny. It's
No.
meant to be sort of epic in that way that Sonic tries to be and then always fails.
Yeah, it's not quite right. Yeah. It's a strange thing. It doesn't quite nail the landing. That said, I do want to watch more of it.
Yeah.
But it's just odd that it's...
I mean, the thing that intrigues me about the long-term story of that thing is why does Robotnik only exist in one place and they're all there?
That's very true. Yeah. What about these other universes? Like,
'Cause I assume-
why did Eggman only end up in the first universe they go to, which is New Yoke?
Yeah.
Egg puns.
I mean, my assumption would have been that somehow the Robotniks from all the other universes ended up in this one, but they're not themed like the other universes in any way.
No,
None of them
does
would
that
fit
mean there's
there.
only 5 other universes?
I mean,
There's
yes.
only 5 Eggmans?
Well, I mean, I assume it's going to be like color-based. There'll probably be 7, you know, like Chaos Emeralds or whatever.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Maybe we're going to encounter a alternate Eggman and...
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's what I was expecting. I was expecting the bad guy in all the other universes was still going to be another version of Eggman, except for like the twist one where Eggman is a good guy.
Yeah,
But they didn't do that.
they haven't done it. No, there's only the Chaos Council, which
Yes.
seem to be the successful Eggmans.
But he doesn't appear at all in any of the other ones, which is very suspicious. See where that goes.
And there's no alternate Shadows, because Shadow got stuck
Shadows
in
in
the void.
in the void dimension.
And it's like, let's use this time to explain what's going on. Now I'm going to punch you in the face. Season over.
Yep.
It's so weird. It's a very Yakuza ending, actually. It's like, we could just talk this out. Nope, I'm going to punch you. Sonic Prime.
I googled the Death Note. It is Netflix, but it's a series, and it's the Duffer Brothers, so it's the Stranger Things people. So that
Ooh, interesting.
could be good. Could help.
Weird.
Yeah. I wonder if they'll get Willem Dafoe back.
But they've still got a
Probably.
season of Stranger Things to make.
Yeah, but I think they're producing it, so they might not,
Okay,
Be the
sort of
showrunners,
advisory, maybe.
potentially, yeah. But they've got to have something after Stranger Things wraps up.
Yeah, sure. The next season's the last one,
Yeah.
so they say.
I think Succession is this next season, or starting next month, is the last one, I think. So a few things coming to an end.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, the HBO thing with Brian Cox. That's pretty good if you haven't seen that.
I have not.
No.
I mean, I should probably watch The Last of Us at some point.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's over now, so now I'm going to
No, I'm not sure it is. I think it is still airing.
Oh, is it still going?
Yeah.
I was going to wait until it's all done.
I think it's like episode 6 or 7 they're up to now.
Right. I hear it's really good.
Yeah, and it's done in a way that is supposedly sympathetic to people expecting it to follow the game story, but then they change just enough to keep it interesting.
That's good.
You know what I mean? They've managed to strike the balance. So I've heard. I don't know if I. It's one of those shows that I actually don't know if I want to watch it because, like, despite the Last of Us story, the story is obviously the strongest element of those games, but like it's
probably
But it's not going to be a happy, fun time.
No, that's true. Yeah, it depends what you need, what mood you're in.
Speaking of weird spin-offs, you see, do you ever watch the Death in Paradise?
No.
Like that. Like Noam and I have probably seen all of it. Like it's that sort of tropical crime drama that the BBC makes set on the island of San Marie. They've done a spin-off from that is in Cornwall. It's like let's have this tropical crime drama, and it's like, oh, I know. Let's actually just go back to one of the detectives that left it, but because they live in Cornwall now, so we'll follow
but wasn't the whole the whole point of that thing is that was it like a not spin-off, but like vague continuation of a thing where it's like, because obviously he's the out of place guy who moves to this tropical paradise at the start.
Yeah.
Was that because it was like following on from another series that was originally just back in the UK again? So it's like now they're coming back?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
if it was, I'm not aware of it.
I mean, story-wise it is, but not maybe the series didn't exist that it theoretically would have been. But, I mean, I guess that makes sense. And it's also probably cheaper to film.
Probably, yeah. I mean, it's all right. It's
another crime show.
It's a decent enough, light-hearted crime, whodunit kind of thing. But just not as unbearable as going back and watching like NCIS or pretty much anything on Alibi.
NCIS is a slightly different problem.
You don't see like repeats of CSI turn up on TV anymore. Like, has something happened? Like,
well, maybe people finally got bored of it.
Yeah, CSI was so huge though. It's like it just
that was the problem.
Yeah,
they made too many different versions, and they. As always, they expended every possible mystery. It's like House. When you've expended every possible weird disease, then you're done.
I mean, maybe. I mean, we've still got seasons of that to watch. Never finished it. TV and film. Hey, I was happy that University Challenge had a Scott Pilgrim question the other day.
Yeah, I think I heard that while I was making a cup of tea. I was like, oh, I could probably answer that question.
They had a round about Brie Larson.
Right.
They were like, in what film does she play Envy Adams? And I'm like, that's fucking Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
It's my bro. So I was happy.
That's a sort of segue into games, isn't it? There's a film about
I guess
video games. Sort of.
Woo!
What's going on games-wise?
In news.
Slower week. Unlike the
Luckily.
Unlike the news, was it torrent we had last time? Sony didn't want to be left out of the presentation party, so they did a state of play. Moving on.
Yep. Pretty much.
Okay.
No, there's a couple. I mean, they talked about PSVR 2 games a little bit, and
right.
But honestly, there wasn't really much of interest there. They had some Street Fighter 6 character reveals, like Zangief, Cammy, and newcomer Lily are in there. That game continues to look good. But the thing about this state of play is they had a massive segment on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.
Oh, okay.
So we now know what that game is. So I think they're desperately trying to not be compared to Square Enix's The Avengers. Is the worry here. So that I think we talked about the fact they had a leaked screenshot or two month or two ago where it made it look like it might be it might be a bit of a loot game, like where you grind, you get weapons and your power level goes up. And
so are they not more worried about being compared to Gotham Knights?
I mean, maybe, yeah. So it is a bit of that, but when you actually see the game, it is a fast-paced traversal shooter. It's not like the Batman games. It's a shooter. You're shooting things with guns. There are some melee-like things, but it seems mostly about the guns, as far as I can tell, and flying through the sky and being crazy acrobatic. To the point where I was getting slight Sunset Overdrive vibes, watching this thing, and it's like I don't think it's what anybody wanted, but also I'm sort of looking at it thinking, this probably looks okay, actually.
Okay.
I mean, it's the trailer is kind of cut in a sort of like, here's an encounter with a giant enemy cannon artillery battery thing, and we're jumping around shooting these purple dudes. Purple dudes seem to be bad. Kill purple dudes. And it's sort of cut in a sort of like, here's a few shots of gameplay, then cut ahead about a few minutes, and we'll see someone else doing some shooting, and then we'll cut ahead a few. So it's a very it's not actually like a solid flow of gameplay. Unfortunately, it's a sort of super cut. And it perhaps would have been nice to just let the game breathe a bit and let's see how this actually is. But yeah, because it's so fast paced and because it seems quite acrobatic and positional, and you're dodging around big ass laser shots and things like that. I don't think it looks terrible. It just depends how well it scales to, they made a big deal of saying it's a 4-player co-op shooter, but it will scale just as well to playing solo. It's like we've been thinking of that since the start, and so it should be okay as a okay, they didn't use that phrase. It should be okay as a solo game. I guess the thing that's got everybody worried is that it is a loot grind game. You have to get your power level up to a certain point in order to perhaps take on certain missions. It's like if like your Destiny style, I suppose. It's like if you haven't got good enough gear, you're not going to be able to do this next mission. So are you going to have to go back and replay previous missions to get more stuff? And how's that all really going to play out? Will anyone care? Is my takeaway from it. Have they already pushed too much of the is this a live service game button? Is it too much down that path? They did mention a battle pass. But the battle pass apparently only applies to if you really want to do cosmetic stuff to your characters. There are no gameplay additions in the battle pass. So that's something, I guess. Oh, when any cosmetic stuff you do to your character isn't part of the gear score. So if you want to play dress up.
Well, I mean, that's what the Marvel games have always done in the past, isn't it? They have ridiculous amounts of cosmetic grind for all the ridiculous, every comic-based costume for every character you could possibly imagine. We'll just chuck them in there, but then the grind is ridiculous.
Yeah. So I think this is going to be that if you're into your cosmetics, but if you want actual gameplay stuff, not that bad, which is probably fine.
But does anyone want to play it?
Does anyone want to
play that kind of game right now?
Did anyone want Rocksteady to make that sort of game?
Yeah.
And they're also saying it's a follow-on from the Arkham verse as well. So they're it's in the same timeline as the Arkham games. I don't know whether Gotham Knights counts as that.
Oh, God. I bet they hope it doesn't.
Yeah. And Wonder Woman's in it. As a not converted. So everyone else has been converted, but Wonder Woman hasn't. But not necessarily as a playable character. We don't know.
Well, this isn't looking that good for my League of Intrigue pick. I don't know. Maybe people
it might be all right. That's what I say. I think it's really hard to tell from what they're saying. I kind of trust Rocksteady to make a quality product.
That's the thing, yeah.
It's,
I mean,
the question mark is
Gotham
just,
Knights
is
and
it the
stuff
product
was-
we wanted? Like, I don't know.
that was
it is.
always, that studio that made that was always, was the B tier one compared to, so somewhat to be expected. But the actual Rocksteady, like, they haven't done anything in a long time. So
Not since Gotham Knight. Arkham Knight, sorry, not Gotham Knight.
yeah,
Gotham Knight singular.
Gotham, yeah, singular Gotham Knight.
I mean, maybe everyone left the studio or something, but I bet there's still some people around.
Yeah, so I think there's been a few like other higher ups have left, pushing some of the some of the some of their underlings up more into the spotlight. But so apparently, like one of the original founders was on this State of Play, and he's not actually part of Rocksteady anymore. He left a few months ago.
I see.
And so, but he was still doing the promotion tour for this. Hey, I'm the founder of or one of the co-founders of Rocksteady, and I'm here to promote this game I'm no longer a part of. Which you might look at as a slight. That's a bit of an oddity, but he would have been
Recorded ages ago.
Yeah, he would have been a major part of this game's development, like if he only left a couple months ago. So that's probably fair. Well, however much a founder of the company is involved in that kind of stuff, who knows? But anyway, I think that's only the real talking point from that State of Play that I think we need to worry about. In other news, legend Shinji Mikami is leaving Tango Gameworks. So he's the guy that made Resident Evil what it is, and most recently was involved in Hi-Fi Rush and Ghostwire Tokyo, and Tango Gameworks cut their teeth on The Evil Within. Anyway, he's leaving Tango, and it's sort of suggesting that he might be leaving video games. So that's
okay. It's quite extreme.
because he had noted a few years back that I'm going to helm. I could helm one more project, and he hasn't really helmed either Ghostwire Tokyo or Hi-Fi Rush. He's been there as a sort of, taking a slightly more backseat role. So now he's left the thing without fulfilling that. It's like, and he said, I could helm one more project, and it's like, well, he's out of Tango now. Is he going to actually do anything else? So that might be the end of Shinji Mikami in video games, which is a bit of a bummer. A bit of a legend. So there's that. Zero Wing has turned up on Steam. All your base
We get
up along to us. Yeah, main screen turn on. All of that.
Turn on.
Hilariously, though, the version they put up isn't the version with all the memes in.
Well, I mean,
What?
that's more like obviously because like the version with the memes was a particularly bad version, and obviously you're going to put out the better version.
But
You're going to re-release.
Yeah, I mean the port was fine, but it was the Genesis port
Yes.
that had all the terrible translations in, and the version they've put on Steam is the arcade version, which is superior. It's a better playing game, better looking game. But the problem everyone has with this is that it's Zero Wing. Why have you not put these memes in? Why are they like?
Because it's just the arcade version. It's not like you put it's not like they remade the game.
And they've also
it's just a port.
But the blurb on the sales site, on the Steam page and things like that includes the memes as well as part of the sales pitch.
Sure.
And it's like you've used the memes and they're not even in the game, and so that's got people a little annoyed. However, in a surprising turn of events, Bitwave, who are the studio behind putting this out, have said they're actually going to add the meme-filled intro to the game in the coming weeks. So you will get your wish. The memes will be back.
The memes will return. That's quite a weird thing to patch in, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a weird thing to patch in, but I mean, if they'd thought ahead, it wouldn't have been a weird thing to be a menu option that you could turn on.
No,
it's kind of like
exactly.
It kind of reminds me of the stupid. I mean, it's not the same, but when Jamestown has the fast toggle.
Oh right.
Turn on the fast mode, and you get the weird version of the story where it makes even less sense than it already does.
Yeah. Fewer things to skip through, right? That's funny.
And that's not what I said. You thought I said fast. I said fast.
Oh, fast.
Yes, that's what the toggle in Jamestown is called.
Oh, yeah, I know. I thought you meant fast mode, like so it shortened all the text
No.
sequences into something that was like.
No, it's always skippable anyway.
Yeah, I know, but like so it made like
No.
the quantity of it like much more concise.
No, it's fast mode.
Okay, that's pretty funny.
But it's particularly funny in that game because the story is already dumb and stupid. How much worse can it possibly be when you turn it into fast mode?
Man, we should play some Jamestown.
No, all you had to say was that named advertise Rob.
Yeah, Jamestown's a great game.
Yeah.
A shooter classic. Don't skip. Hidden gem.
But yes, that's basically what they're going to put into zeroing is the fast toggle.
Yeah, probably is just going to be like a menu item that you press it and it's like, oh well, I get to watch the intro that I could have watched on YouTube. It'd be even better if they did kind of like blend it somehow into the arcades versions.
But there's nothing to blend. That was kind of the whole point of that, wasn't it? It's just like everyone knows everyone of a certain age knows all these memes from this game, except that is literally just the intro of the game, and then it's just a normal game after that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any more cutscenes past the intro.
I don't even know if there's an ending cutscene.
I have played it, but I don't think I've played enough of it to know.
Well, no, I mean, it's an old school shooter that's probably quite difficult to get through because it was an arcade game.
That is true. Zero Wing, get hype. So we need to talk about Atomic Heart. I guess we don't need.
We don't need
to, but yeah,
it's news, I guess.
It's news, yeah. So Atomic Heart is out. It's doing well on Game Pass. It's reviewing relatively poorly.
Yeah.
I say relatively poorly. It's reviewing okay. It's like it's in the high 70s. Not good for my fantasy league team. So it's doing well, despite being having a fair amount of controversy around it. The big one, obviously, being like, is the game actually tied to the Russian government in some way?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, its investors are Russian, and they supposedly had a hand on the game's creation. It's some of its messaging in the game can be seen as pro-Russian.
Well, I mean, I would have expected that from just the concept of the world of that game on some level.
The development house was originally Russian, but apparently moved out of Russia and are like Ukrainian based, which is interesting.
That's a hell of a move.
Yeah. There's there's a couple of characters in it that are supposedly modelled after that have a bit of a resemblance to the female leader of a Ukrainian political party, and yet these robots are sort of potentially sex slaves. I don't know in the game. I don't know. Like I haven't played it.
What?
I can't make a judgment on that. But the resemblance there is riling people, and it's like, yeah, sure. If you look at the pictures, you can sort of see it.
WTF, mate?
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of slightly dubious stuff around this game, to the point where poor old Mick Gordon can't catch a break because he's roped in because he was the music designer for this. So coming off the back of all the stuff with id and Doom Eternal and all that stuff, man needs to get paid, but he's decided to donate his fee to the Red Cross to sort of in
okay,
as a sort of like, hey, look, I know this. I've somehow got involved in another problem. I need to make this right. So I don't know. Further making Mick Gordon a bit of a legend in my head.
Oh yeah, for sure.
A bit of me still wants to play this game though. It does.
If it's on Game Pass,
it does look fun. But yeah, if the Russian government are stealing my details, it's like, and it's they've already got it. Like, just get them off Game Pass. It's no problem.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anywho.
I felt like this one, I wasn't really paying attention, but we haven't talked about Atomic Heart before, have we? Until it came out.
Apart from the trailers,
Yeah,
which
the
were weird,
trailer-
which was weird, which was why we talked about
We
them.
I think we mentioned it when it first got announced. Well, not when it first got announced. Somewhere in the middle of its development cycle, where it had a crazy Eurobeat trailer.
Yeah.
It was just mental, and some of the more recent trailers have a bizarre. I mean, it's Mick Gordon all over. Like, it's got a really bizarre and interesting audio scape to it, and I'm into it big time. But also, the gameplay just looks like a mad Doom. Like just mental shooter. Although people are calling it the Russian BioShock, so maybe it's got other
Oh, really?
like elements to it that I'm not aware of. Yeah, it's kind of it's a relatively high profile release. Relatively, it's not like
People are talking about it. Yeah.
It's sort of on a Wolfenstein level. Let's call it that.
Speaking of things that have just come out into controversy, the early access version of Kerbal Space Program 2 has just come out. And
Oh, yeah.
getting thoroughly shit on.
Oh, is it really?
Well, but like
How early are we talking early access?
well,
Is
the
that
thing
problem?
is, so this is the thing about it. So, I mean, currently the reviews on Steam are mixed, and mixed in the very literal sense of the term, exactly 50-50 currently,
Interesting.
which is real bad for a new game on Steam. But the problem is, like, well, I mean, it's sort of a combination of problems that have made the perception real bad, is that it's gone into early access, and I mean, it runs incredibly badly, and like, the developers made big claims about, we're going to fix the physics engine. We're going to kill the Kraken, which was what everyone called the physics glitching out and blowing everything
when
up.
it suddenly just goes.
Yeah, it's the Kraken killing
In
things.
the original game.
In the original game, and they were like, we're going to kill the Kraken. It's going to be so great. And then like you look at this and look at what they've just put out, and it's like, this is possibly actually even worse than the original conversation.
Oh boy!
It doesn't seem
That's
to
the
have improved
foundation
virtually
of
at
the whole
all.
thing. Right?
And like, because it's seemingly very early access, it basically doesn't even have the stuff that was in Kerbal Space Program 1 at the end. Like, currently it's literally only sandbox mode. There's none of the career, none of the science.
I mean, that's to be expected, I guess.
Kind of, but like career mode and science mode in Kerbal Space Program 1 was so simple that it's just like, it's basically a menu. It's like, it's not even really like extra gameplay. It's just like detecting where your ships are, and that's all you need for career mode, basically.
Yeah, I don't know that we can fault them for that. I'd rather know.
Kind of, but then the problem with that is like, you say like, it's only just come into early access, so obviously it's going to be lacking all this content. But they have technically had like a whole 3 extra years since they first announced they were going to release it. Because it was meant to come out in 2020, and obviously at the time we were like, that's never going to happen. But then it's like, it's been 3 years since then, and then this is what they put out into the start of their early access.
You think they needed to get a handle on
And
the
also-
physics before they would show the public?
Yes,
right?
and also they're charging $50 for it
Oof,
in early access, with the expectation that the price is probably going to go up.
that's rough.
Yeesh.
But yes, I think like the main problem at the moment is like the performance. It's just absolutely goddamn terrible. Like the controversy that happened slightly before the early access release was they released a like, here's the minimum and recommended specs for what you're going to need when we release the early access version of Kerbal, and it was like the recommended was pretty much top tier current graphics cards, and it's like, okay.
I mean, I can understand there's probably a whole bunch of physics they need to
Yes.
put, and if their engine is actually better, then okay,
Yeah, in theory.
you could perhaps understand why it would need more juice.
But I mean, the thing is, like, from what I've seen of videos of it and people talking about it, it seems like it's not really the physics that, well, it's not, I don't think it's actually the physics that is the problem. I think it's the graphics and some like calculation stuff, which I wouldn't necessarily call physics. Like, so people are talking about how like looking in different directions has a significant effect on the frame rate. So that's obviously just graphics.
Yeah.
But then when they're talking about things that are making the game run badly on the
if we say it's just graphics, unless it's one of those things where it's not simulating things the same way if they're on screen compared to off screen.
I suppose.
Which, you know,
but there's nothing else to simulate because it's when you're looking at the planet. That's not really simulating anything. It's just another view of your ship.
In theory, you should only be concerned about your craft.
Yeah.
At all times.
Yeah. And then the other thing that was supposedly at the moment is real bad and the developers have confirmed this sort of as a current bug they're working on type thing, is that like if you have multiple engines drawing fuel from one tank, for some reason the calculation is excessively heavy. And it's like, that doesn't like, how is that a problem at this point in this game's development? Surely that should have been a really
fundamental.
Yeah, a fundamental part of rocket fuel management systems is multiple engines drawing from one tank. And theoretically, like, if you go back to original Kerbal Space Program, one of the things that always made that run badly and continued to make that run badly all the way through, like it was a thing that never got fixed, was like fuel cross-feed. Like if you use the fuel pipes to transfer fuel between tanks and then like the engines were drawing the fuel from outer tanks inwards or whatever, that calculation was always bad, even back in Kerbal Space Program 1. But then it's like, so you haven't fixed even that bug, apparently.
Is it the same code? Yeah.
But yeah, people are not happy currently.
Interesting.
I was seriously, slightly before it came out, I was considering like bidding like $1 on it for the League, but there's absolutely no chance that game's going to come out this year.
No.
Yeah.
Now that we've seen it.
Yep, you need a few more years. Give it another 3 years.
Yeah, at least. Because I mean, they haven't even.
It's probably got to the point where it's probably come out now because the publisher's lost patience.
Well, yes. I mean, that's what everyone is also assuming. Also, end of February release.
Because what is it?
Because you know what that means? The end of financial year.
Oh, yeah. Approaching. Yeah. Because what is it? 2K that's
it's
running this?
Yes. No, Take-Two, the other one.
Take-Two.
You get that mixed up very easily.
Yeah, you're right. I forget which one it is. But Take-Two own 2K? Is that how that works? Is it that way around?
I don't remember that part. But this is a
I think it's all related.
Sub-studio under Take-Two.
Okay. Oh, because it's not original Monkey Squad, is it?
No, the IP got sold off or whatever.
So it's a whole different crew.
Well, there might be like one or two,
okay.
And maybe some of the modders from KSP1 got employed into this as well. But
that would make sense. Yeah.
But yes, it's kind of worrying that they've after three theoretical more years than they originally had. It still doesn't seem to have gone very far.
And it makes you wonder that this new team are clearly struggling with, like, if it is a completely new team, like this feels a whole lot more believable, right? That they're struggling with problems that they perhaps the older team will have a much better comprehension of.
Yeah,
and probably know where their old code was bad at it, and they'd have constructed a better idea for version 2. But like this, if they've swapped to a whole other team, it's like it's another team start trying to understand what was happened before, which is a flawed process. It can help, but it's going to be not as good as knowing from the originals. But like I guess we just don't know how much of the original code they're even looking at or using. Right, because at one point they did claim they were going to like redo the entire physics engine themselves to like not, because Kerbal Space Program 1 used like Unity and it used like Unity's own physics engine. They worked on it, but it was built on the Unity physics engine. Okay. Whereas in this one they claimed they were going to write their own thing from scratch, but doesn't look like they did. Yeah. Or at least not yet. But yes, it's good luck getting more than 15 frames per second most of the time. Makes you wonder if they could have... Are Havoc still around? Like could they have partnered with someone like that to build a really solid physics engine?
Well, yeah, I mean, physics engines have just like... Has anyone made one recently, ever? The ones that exist have presumably continued to have been worked on, like Havoc, presumably.
Yeah, and whatever's powering Unreal 5, I guess.
Yeah.
It's probably got some of its own tricks.
But is a physics engine even a thing, really, in modern game engines any longer? Like a separate thing that you can plug in?
Integral now, yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened to like the emotion stuff? Did that get like just folded into the Rockstar games? That was in various games, that middleware, because it was in those Star Wars games, wasn't it? All that, the people grabbing onto things and stuff with the skeletal.
What you mean from like Unleashed or like Force
Yeah.
Unleashed and that stuff.
Force Unleashed had it, and where the stormtroopers would like grab onto things as they were being thrown around with the Force, and then Grand Theft Auto 4 had it, right, where people would.
Yeah, that was
and
where
then
it started, right?
Yeah, but I think they were around the same time, those two games.
Interesting.
But I don't know what happened, and I don't know if that is just in those engines now. But you don't hear about that. Similar to Havoc Physics, that middleware just got absorbed somewhere. But I don't see that behavior from that
I think there's a bit of that
in many games.
Grand Theft Auto 5. It's not nearly as
it's toned
pronounced as
down
4.
compared to 4. Yeah, I think maybe it's there now in modern games. It's just toned down.
I mean, for Rockstar, that's probably just an evolution of whatever they were using, right? It'll be. Yeah.
But I think it was like a licensed middleware because I think it was the same tech as was in the Force Unleashed.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I think so.
Anyway.
Yeah, they licensed it out, but GTA 5 presumably has whatever Emotion 2 or something under the hood. Or
Yeah, presumably.
some in-house.
Euphoria, sorry.
Euphoria. Sorry. Yeah,
Get it right.
I was getting a bit confused because Emotion was the graphics engine behind PS2.
Behind PS2, yeah.
Or it was one of the chips in the PS2. Something like that. The Emotion engine.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Kerbal Space Program 2.
Yep.
Potentially a
KSP.
mess.
Kind of what we had expected.
Well, kind of what we expected 3 years ago. Like, this is definitely what I would have imagined would have come out in 2020 if they had put it out then. But somehow 3 years later, it's still that.
I mean, maybe COVID really messed them up.
Well, I mean, yes, but that's,
and maybe it's only been like one active year.
Too much of an excuse at this point.
Yeah. If it still sucks, it sucks. Yeah, that's a shame. I mean, maybe they'll turn it around. Maybe they'll No Man's Sky this thing.
Well, I mean, that several people have been saying that.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe this will be a No Man's Sky situation.
I mean, No Man's Sky is getting another massive update.
Yes,
soon.
it just has.
Oh, has it come out?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got another goddamn 7 gigabyte patch sitting there waiting to probably not be installed.
I might have a little look because apparently it's a bit of a graphics overhaul again, and there's some HDR fixes and things like that, which will look nice on the Xbox.
No Man's Sky is an interesting thing to look back on now because it's
really
like,
is.
What did they do? Maybe it was all on purpose. Obviously, they overhyped it in the beginning, but they're still there and they still exist they didn't go bust. So so maybe it could have been a Machiavellian mastermind plan to piss everyone off. Well,
I mean, maybe, yeah, because if they overhyped it and it sold incredibly well based on the bad hype, but then when they actually checked the boxes, people that owned the game were tempted enough to return to it and be like, "Is this good now?" And it turns out it was, which causes a wave of sales.
Yeah, it's like if you look at it
because
in
they've technically
totality,
ticked every single box now that they had originally planned,
and they ended up making money. So it's like it's actually overall a win. It's like, is it worth? Did they deliberately piss everyone off? Maybe. I mean, it worked. Whatever they did.
I really hope that wasn't the plan. I really hope not.
But if it was,
maybe it was.
Regardless, it worked out in the end.
Well, they made it. It took them. Was it 3 or 4 years after it came out? It finally got to the point where they had fulfilled every promise.
Yeah,
but if you looked at those promises and the size of the studio, that is exactly what you would expect. But like, if they had been completely honest, would they have been able to get to this point?
Yeah, would it have had that initial hype? Would have had all this coverage?
Well, I mean, the other thing that
would No Man's Lie have been a thing?
When you say that like they hyped it up and then made sales, they also made a lot of refunds. This was like, this was probably one of the earliest examples of a game that got refunded a lot on Steam just because that system had just started becoming like more functional.
And it was, to its credit, it didn't. I don't think it got to the point where like it got pulled from stores though.
No,
right? Like not like some big. It at least functioned right as a game. Out the gate.
I mean, that's sort of the thing about what if we were people at the time.
It's not like PlayStation pulling Cyberpunk, for instance.
Yeah, it wasn't as broken as Cyberpunk.
Like people shortly after No Man's Sky coming out would say like, "Oh, if this had been labelled as early access, it probably would have been fine."
Yeah,
but that wasn't really so much of a thing at the time.
Yeah, that's the thing.
7 years ago, I think early access would have been
I mean,
around,
it was a
yeah.
thing, but it wasn't so much. It wasn't automatically assumed that everything was going to be early access. But then that compares back to the Kerbal Space
Also-
Program 2 situation, where it's just like,
Also, Sony wouldn't have wanted that, right?
Well,
Because
sure,
they put
yes.
a big marketing budget behind No Man's Sky.
Yes.
And they did.
Yeah.
and they don't have an early access system, or they didn't then.
I'm still not sure they have an early access system on PlayStation. Or at least not an official one. I think games can launch in that state, but it's just, as far as PlayStation are concerned, it's a game.
But
So
yes.
that's the thing. If they'd done it properly, made it early access, not had all that hype and budget, would we be here
Would we
today
have
with a
cared
good
that
No
much?
Man's
Well, they can
Sky?
still have the hype.
Yeah.
It would have just been coming out in early access, and then people would have been saying, "Oh, you have to wait for all the actual stuff to get put in."
I still think I'm playing that game wrong. I think I'm perennially not doing something right. I feel I'm possibly playing it in the most inefficient way. I think. Anyway, that game's rad. It's cool now. I want to see what it looks like when Fractal. I want to download Fractal onto the Xbox, see what it looks like. At some point, I should really see if I can. I don't know if the Windows Store version is VR happy. I've had bad luck with Windows Store recently, like in general. Actually being able to get anything to work on it. So if I could get the Windows Game Pass version of it running, I should probably check out the VR stuff now that they've done a whole bunch more work on VR. I should see what that looks like. It probably looks pretty cool.
Probably.
Pretty cool. Final bit of news then, I guess.
Yep.
Xbox have confirmed that the data they have surrounding Game Pass does seem to suggest, in a sort of no-duh kind of way, that titles that end up on Game Pass do cannibalize their sales, their straight-up sales of games.
What a surprise. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, of course it does. Like, if people have Game Pass and they're playing the game on Game Pass, like, it's going to lower the probability that they buy a copy of the game, surely.
Yeah. Did I?
I think I mean that hasn't always been true. Like Phil Spencer back in 2018 was claiming that that's not been the case when Game Pass was, I don't know, I guess fairly early in its. And it's they were saying that like actually titles we put on Game Pass seem to show a above expected performance in terms of sales as well. But I guess as more people end up on Game Pass, the more they realise they don't have to buy games, or the word has spread enough that is now starting to impact sales. Because, it makes me play more of those games, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, I guess that doesn't result in more remuneration for the actual studios. They've probably cut a deal with Microsoft for a fixed amount. Like, who knows how that stuff works?
Yes, that is the actual question. It's like, what is the actual payment system between Xbox and those game makers?
Yeah, there were rumors at one point. I remember it was several years ago now, but they were talking about like there was potentially a system whereby like they knew who had launched a game and for how long, and so they would pay a certain amount of the Game Pass fees based on their deal with that developer.
Right.
And they would pass it on to them. But the thing with like Games with Gold and PS Plus, it's like that historically always used to be, we'll pay you a fixed amount to put that on PS Plus or Games with Gold. I mean, I'm talking old PS Plus, not whatever the new damn service is with the PlayStation catalog or. So they pay a fixed amount to enter there. Things like Rocket League, for instance, they'd be like, "Oh, here, have a few million, and we'll put it on PS Plus." For free for everyone that has PS Plus. Yeah, so who knows how that works? Anyway, that's what the data is saying. Like what that, I guess that now that that's known, that may impact what studios choose to be a part of Game Pass, or whether they go seeking a Game Pass deal, or whether they agree to Microsoft reaching out for a Game Pass deal. It's still a pretty new service, you could argue. It's still kind of feeling their way as to how these services are going to function, but it still feels like the future to me every time something turns up on Game Pass, and I'm like, hell yeah! Especially Hi-Fi Rush of late. It's just like, oh, good God, yes! I'm so happy I'm a subscriber to this service. Does not make me want to subscribe to Nintendo Switch Online anymore. Although I hear that Game Boy Advance like emulation is tight.
Well, that's not difficult.
Yeah.
We've had VBA for like 25 years or something at this point.
It's been pretty solid for a long time. Yeah. But it's good to know that Nintendo haven't cocked it up in some way.
Yeah, I guess. Like they did with the N64.
Exactly. Apparently it's even like proper integer scaling, and they haven't even allowed it to be like some weird like shimmery scale. Like no, we're integer scaling at all times.
They're not using any Super Eagle or any bullshit.
No, none of that. No 2x psi.
Yeah.
And that's the news. That's all I got.
Yeah.
That's the news. Cool. Well, it's time for what you've been playing. What have you been playing? Zach? What have you been playing?
That is his name.
Zach?
Yes, we didn't get much time to talk about what we had been playing last time. But, you know, as I said at the time, I hadn't been playing much new. And I guess I've played a couple of technically new things for a very short period of time. But to talk about the old things briefly first, I finally, after this much time, got the achievement in Deep Rock for getting all the classes to gold.
Holy shit. Okay.
So I'm finally done with that. And the funny thing about that is that's the last achievement, but that's more or less halfway through the promotions that you can possibly get. Wow. Like there's 2 tiers beyond gold.
That's madness.
And each, you know, as we've previously mentioned, each tier is 3 individual tiers, like gold 1, 2, and 3, and then 6 more after that. But there's no more achievements, so I don't have to worry about that any longer. As much as you worry about it. No. I can play whatever class I want again.
Hooray. I will come back to Dirk, don't worry.
I hope so.
It's just been slightly...
Yes.
I don't know how to plan my time anymore.
Well, yes, I mean, a Dirk mission is very much a, 45-minute commitment.
Yeah. I just haven't quite got a handle, because I know the Cambridge crew were playing Deep Rock the other night, and I was like, oh man, I want in, but
you can't.
There's a guilt factor to recording this right now.
Right
now, I've got a child. There's a certain bit in the back of my head that's going, this is quite unfair to know. But
you have to have a division of labour at a certain point.
Yeah,
sure. but you know, it is weighted towards the mother at the best of times, so it's
only natural.
Zach's guide to parenting.
Speaking of 45 minutes of Deep Rock, another achievement I still don't have is beating a deep dive in under 45 minutes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But the funny thing was, for the first time in a while, I actually tried. Like, I was like, I'm going to do this deep dive with the intention of doing it fast.
Speedrun it, yeah.
Actually try and get it under 45 minutes. And it gave me possibly the, least possibly fast missions ever. Like, it was like it was like an elimination mission with the ghost and then, an industrial sabotage. I was this is not going to be fast.
Pipeline one?
Yeah, and a pipeline one.
God, yeah,
it was all 3 of the slowest possible mission types. But even with that situation, I still got it. I still managed to finish that in 48 minutes. Ooh. So I was like, next time I get a favourable set of missions, I probably will be able to get that.
Nail it. Yeah, nice. Oh, I'm so hyped for the board game. I can't wait for it to arrive now because apparently, it's still in Germany.
Oh, right.
They're having serious logistic issues. And that's not just in Europe. Apparently, America and FedEx are sucking as well. So, everyone's angry on the forum at the moment. But the people that have got the game have said it's rad, and that stopped. I couldn't help myself. I ended up watching another sort of
unboxing
and a playthrough.
Oh, right.
Here's a mission, start to finish. That game just looks fun.
Sure,
I'm hyped. So maybe we'll hear about it.
Maybe.
This year.
So this year, I would hope so.
Yeah, let's just say this year at this point.
But yeah, and I'm also done with the season 3 grind. I've been done with that for a week or whatever, week and a half. So I don't even need to worry about that any longer. When's season 4 coming?
April, I guess.
Maybe. I don't think
it feels like in April.
Well, they haven't said anything as far as I know, and there haven't been any previews like they did with season 3. Start uploading some JPEGs that have various hints in it. And then, I mean, just this week there was another patch that now some people are annoyed about because it fixed a bug where you could basically reset the weekly core hunt to get the overclock cores.
Oh, so you could do it more than weekly.
Yes, it was in a way it was a kind of like a bug that almost seemed like it was maybe how the game should have worked, or not necessarily should have worked, but the reward of being able to do the core grind again made sense, because what would happen is if you completed the core grind for the week and then did a promotion assignment, for some reason that would just reset the core hunt, so you could do the core hunt again after you'd done a promotion. Which, promotions don't give you anything. In fact, they literally just cost you resources. So there's no like reward for getting to promotion. It's like literally an anti-reward. So the fact that it caused this weird bug that would reset the core grind was like, that's the reward of promotions. If you set it up right, if you make sure you finish the core hunt, then do the promotion, then do another core hunt.
So it wasn't super exploitable anyway.
No, not super exploitable. But yeah, some people are annoyed about that.
Yeah.
But then I mean, in some ways, it does suck for a new player to try and get into the cores, because it takes a long time to even get to the cores. Just the first promotion isn't a short thing.
Yeah, and I've only done that with 2 characters.
And then to have to actually grind out the cores and hope that you can get the one for the gun for the specific gun,
it takes a while,
that you actually want. So yeah, I mean, that does kind of suck. But that's always been the case. That whole system has always felt like it should give you slightly more control, maybe, or just like.
But that's sort of what those like multi-pick.
Well, yeah, I mean the
randomizers.
So the multi-pick on the machine events always existed. Well, since I played, and that always gives you an option between 2 different weapon overclocks for 2 different classes and one cosmetic for a different class, and so that's some control. I mean, but obviously, as more guns have been introduced, that only makes that random worse. Like, even picking the class is not going to guarantee that you can even use that, because it's like you've got different weapons to unlock.
Yeah, it might be a gun you haven't unlocked yet.
And then they did add that other optional on the Forge Mastery, when every time you forge 5 things, you get the extra core, and that they added the ability to pick which class you get that bonus for. Except that one's always cosmetic, I think. Or maybe it's not, I don't know. I guess I finished all the weapon overclocks before I really got much Forge Mastery to be able to notice what I was getting from that. And then obviously you got the weekly core hunt, the deep dives. So that's like, theoretically, if you can do the elite deep dive, that adds another 3 as well. So that's like theoretically that's 9 cores a week.
Yeah, that's pretty decent.
But it's not fast. But a lot of things in that game are not fast. Like the season progress, for example, very not fast. It's just the trouble with it is because it is the gameplay affecting unlocks, not the cosmetic unlocks. Like, people wouldn't care if it was just the cosmetic stuff. It's just the fact that it is the overclocks for the guns that kind of make that game interesting. Like, when I've played with people who are coming from the start, not just Rob, but when it's like, you have to grind through your first promotion and your guns are going to be shit, basically.
I mean, they don't make a huge difference, I don't think so. It's not the baseline stuff.
Well, no, that's what I mean. It's like all the little normal upgrades are going to make not a super large amount of difference. The gun is always going to be like this, and if it's not, and some of those guns aren't great by default. But then, like,
until you overclock them into something weird.
Well, yeah, and then when you get the overclock and you can actually make a build, it's like, holy shit, this gun is actually useful. Like, when I first unlocked, I think the first gun I unlocked was like the M1000, and I didn't like it at all in its base form. And then as soon as...
What was that? Is that the one that's a bit like the Garand?
Yeah, the rifle.
The Ting?
Yes, the Ting. But as soon as I got overclocks for that and went back and actually convinced myself to go back because I hadn't used it forever, I was like, let's go back and actually make a build using the overclocks. It's like, oh, this gun is actually usable. So yeah. I don't know if the community outcry about that patch is going to make them have a reconsideration about
I want
the unlock speed or whatever.
I want more overclocks for more things.
Well, sure, everyone wants that.
Let's overclock the grenades. Come on.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed when Season 3 came around. They were like, here's your new grenades, but not overclocks for grenades.
Yeah. Overclocks for grenades could be wild.
And when are we going to get flare upgrades?
Right.
As the dwarves always say when you're chucking flares around. Because they're on the upgrade screen. And there were upgrades for flares in one of the very early versions, which is why they exist on that screen.
Oh, right, like in an early access build or something.
Or what? Yeah, or one of the early years before we got involved.
Oh, I see.
In year 3.
Huh.
So yeah, there's options to add more shit, and I hope they do. Season 4.
Well, yeah.
What will be the major upgrade for Season 4? That's the question.
I mean, the good thing about Deep Rock is really, and I mentioned this many times before, it's one of those games that can only really benefit from having more.
Yeah.
Like, just more of it, and more stuff, and more random. That game gets better.
Yes. And that's why we were always hoping where it's like, don't take the robots out entirely.
No.
You put all this work into adding this whole new mission type and all these new enemies. Don't just remove them.
No, they need to still be hanging about. I don't want them to pull a full-on Fortnite foot on us and or Destiny and actually start cutting content over time. Just because it fits the season. It's no, keep that stuff, keep everything about at all times.
Yeah. I mean, at a certain point you're...
Smash Brothers, all items on, go.
At a certain point you're going to be hamstrung by the law, where it's just
who cares?
Well, sure, but there's ways around that. You can just be this is just make it a weird, historic mission types where you can still do them, but maybe they don't contribute as much or something.
But that's a pretty good idea. Go sepia.
Well, I'm not necessarily saying you have to have a sepia filter over everything, but that would be funny as well.
Just over the loading.
Well, yeah, sure. Or a toggle on the map where you can be turn it into the historic mode, and then it goes brown.
Yeah. That'd be pretty funny.
So yeah, that's Deep Rock.
And some of the music turns into honky tonk.
Yeah, probably.
That would be great.
I play a whole ton mainly of Captain of Industry still. I'm still deep in the process of all of my mines are now ground level, so I'm having to build retaining walls and everything. But I feel like I'm much more. I've basically finally got around to upgrading sort of the basics, construction components. I finally got around to making a new factory to make those, which then makes just building more stuff quicker much easier.
Okay.
So I can just much more easily just throw down these retaining walls all over the place, although those don't use construction parts, those use concrete. But that was concrete is also in construction parts, so that was kind of inherently upgraded as well in this process. But yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say on that in terms of technological progress in this save. I've done all the research I can, but I'm still not using all the current research, I guess I would say. I've unlocked it all, but I'm not necessarily using all of that tech level yet.
Right. And presumably you need to use it in order to get enough stuff to progress to the next tech level?
The next upgrade to the labs is going to need microchips or whatever, so I need to get into the whole microchip making process.
Okay.
Which is you need gold mining, and so that's sort of why I haven't done that yet, because it's another one of those big steps where it's you need to do a whole lot of shit at once to do anything beyond this point. But mainly, I've just been doing a whole bunch of terraforming in preparation. Where it's I've leveled out this corner of my coastline and made it the oil factory. And then once that was done, I was where am I going to terraform next? And then it's I can do this bit of coast over near the town, and that's going to be the nuclear power plant at some point, which you do unlock before you get microchips. It's quite an old school nuclear power plant apparently. But yes, I've been thinking about that. And then, I still have disagreements with the way the terraforming works, specifically to do with landfill, as in trash, the garbage that comes out of a town. Okay. Because the town makes a certain amount of trash output dependent on its population, and then depending on what recycling modules you have attached to the town, that reduces the amount of actual garbage and moves it into recyclables. So you can like reclaim. It's basically only if you're feeding in a product, then you need the recycling output for that product, essentially. So once you build the furniture module that gives the town furnishings, then you have the recycling for that gets you a refund of some of the glass and steel that you use to make the furniture, essentially.
I see.
But then, the one exception to that kind of is biomass. So that reclaims basically some of the food, except not really, because it's not related to food directly. It's just population. But it reduces the amount of trash it's making to give you a little bit of biomass. But the thing about this is, the whole problem with this is that, like, the garbage is basically free landfill, infinite free landfill, because the town just makes it continuously, and then you can just dump it to make new land. So in some ways, you almost don't want to reduce the amount of trash the town is making, because it's just giving you free terrain.
Wait. So, wait. So, are you like an island? And
Yes, you're an island.
Okay, and you're putting the trash in the sea.
In the sea to make new land to build on.
Okay.
And the thing,
Great message.
Yes, it is. But the thing about it is, like, I don't necessarily mind that so much, except for it being this weird infinite thing, which is weird. But also, like, it doesn't have any implications of, like, dumping it into the environment doesn't have any implications at all. Like, there's no pollution from that.
Oh.
As soon as you dump it into the ground, it's basically just like it was just gravel. The game doesn't care at all. And you don't even have to, like... the way I've been doing it, because I'm the kind of person who would do this, I've been like, I'm going to make the layer of trash, and then I'm going to cap it with a layer of rock, and then the dirt on top to make it look like grass again. And it's like, I'm doing it in a semi-realistic way that you don't have to at all. You can just build directly on top of the trash pile. So yeah, I mean, like...
And after millions of years, you'll have crushed all this trash there.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes. I mean, in some ways, it theoretically makes sense. Kind of. It just doesn't much make sense for gameplay. I mean, there could be options for them to implement something gameplay related, like if you could make it so if you dump it directly onto terrain, it causes pollution, but if you put like a layer of liner or something, you can prevent that from happening. And then maybe make it so if you cover it over and then you can cap it to capture natural gas or something coming out of the landfill. That would sort of make sense as well. Maybe not for the idea of just making new terrain to put buildings on. But then that also leads into the other thing that I've always thought about, like the fact that you can just build these buildings anywhere and there's no, like, there should be a way to dump concrete into the world as a hard surface so that you can, put your buildings on a proper hard surface. And then there's obviously a way that they can implement that makes sense for the gameplay. The fact that all the buildings require maintenance as a resource, you just make it so if you're building on concrete, the maintenance goes down.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
It would like incentivize you to actually manage that layer. So yeah, I mean, they could do something like that, and I think they should. But I don't know about the garbage problem. It's just a weird quirk of that system where it's like you could incinerate this all, but then you're just wasting all this free space.
Yeah.
And making air pollution at the same time, which is actually bad.
Yeah.
It's actually less polluting to dump it into the sea.
Then dumping it into the...
Fill the seas.
So yes,
Block the rivers.
that's Captain Industry.
Oh man, speaking of landfill, there's a story on Reddit today where a guy who presumably works in a landfill found an entire pallet of sealed magic cards.
What? Oh.
It's like holy shit.
Oh, baby.
Literal fortune, like struck gold, basically.
Man.
And people are like, what? Some people are like, what could be wrong with them? Maybe
Well, yeah, like how did they end up?
Yeah.
In a
Maybe there's some
landfill?
Unidentified chemical all over them or something. I don't know.
Covered in anthrax.
Yeah, maybe it's just covered in anthrax.
Maybe it was a huge haul of like counterfeit goods, actually.
Yeah, maybe they're not real.
It could be. I mean, the speculation in the thread that looked the most legit was like someone said worked in shipping or whatever, and was like probably a forklift bashed into the pallet or whatever, and the whole thing got written off or whatever.
Right. So like, even though most of the cards will be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can see that. It's probably easier just to say like this unit is dead.
Yeah, hilarious.
Dude. My brother was telling me, like, if you manage to find like a sealed pack, those boxes of booster packs, if you manage to find one of those for like when we were playing Magic, like Tempest and Stronghold, that kind of era.
Yeah.
Like they're worth like 800 quid now.
Well, of course.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
So there's basically a 20-year, like 100, like it's like 20-year for like 1,000% gain in investment or something.
Yeah,
I think it must be exponential going back in time, because we were probably 4 years after it. It started in like 94. We were probably playing it in 98 or something, right? Or 97?
Yeah, something like that.
Well,
yeah.
I think the first cards I had were 4th edition.
Sure. Oh, I
something.
didn't. Yeah, that was earlier than I played. I think I was in
fifth edition.
Fifth Tempest and Stronghold was my time.
Yeah, but even that, like, obviously, if you had, like, what was the wintry one where you had like snow covered forests?
Oh god, yeah.
I had those like early ones. Ice Age. It was called Ice Age. I had some Ice Age cards. But yeah, the super early stuff. It's like, because it's like, I don't know, that really did spawn a whole genre of CCGs, because they must have existed before, but really Magic was kind of popularized them. What I don't understand, I've said this before, but what I don't get is like Magic was already super popular, and Pokemon, the computer game, was really popular, and it was a very popular, had become, even though it came out in 95 in Japan, it took until 98 until it actually got to be a thing in the West, right? For some reason. But like, so, Wizards of the Coast, they made a simplified CCG compared to Magic based on Pokemon. And like, isn't it obvious that is going to be a massive success? Wouldn't you just buy the first edition of Charizard and just keep it in a... Isn't that an obvious thing to do?
Well, I mean,
why?
the problem I have is that I was a stupid kid, right? And I completely wrote off Pokemon cards as this will never catch on, because the game sucked.
Well, the trouble with that is like, I don't know, like I feel like on some level mechanical complexity does matter to like the overall value of cards. Like,
yeah, I guess,
because
I mean, to a point, it only has. It has to be popular, but like the reason is. It's the reason why it's popular, right? Like it wouldn't have got popular if the game was not complex enough. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
I just feel like it would have been very hard to predict that Magic would have been a huge success. But like first edition Charizard, it's pretty easy to predict that that's going to be a success based on the success of Magic and the success of Pokemon. But the
thing about Pokemon cards is like there's not so much change over time.
Yeah.
As Magic has in like rules or whatever.
So you don't have that thing with like, because the early Magic cards can't be played because they're broken, right? Because they're completely unbalanced.
But like in Pokemon's case,
that's why like Magic has that like rolling.
Yeah.
As what was it? Is it 3 or 4? You can only go like 3 or mod. I think they call it modern, where you can only go like 3 or 4 sets back or something. You have to build a new deck out of the most recent 3 or 4.
But in Pokemon's case, when they did re-release specific Pokemon cards, it was about the art rather than the mechanics. Like the mechanics sometimes didn't change at all. It was just like, here's the new art for this. But
similarly,
Pokemon.
Even for that, that the first edition of the 150 Pokemon is going to be worth something in the future, right?
And surely. Pokemon lent into shinies,
right? Yeah.
I mean, I guess you didn't necessarily in the first generation of Pokemon know that Pokemon was going to be the most gigantic thing ever. I mean, it could have
just died.
It could have been Digimon.
That's true. That is a good point.
I mean, Digimon.
That's a good point.
Digimon it never quite hit Pokemon heights, but even back then, but it wasn't far off.
No,
I guess
it
the
nearly
whole
succeeded.
thing could have fizzled, couldn't it? Yeah, it could have all fizzled out. Yeah, hard to tell. Anyway, I just think that's kind of weird. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if
Magic
Pokemon
cards are
CCG
hilarious.
hadn't I mean, it could have just not taken off because it was a bad game, and I thought it was a bad game.
I mean, it was a simple game for children.
Yeah.
That was the point.
I didn't like it. So I never bought any cards.
No.
Woe is me.
You wouldn't have got good ones anyway.
No.
So anyway,
Did you ever come across the early card that was in white, Swords to Plowshares? Have you ever come across that one?
I think I remember it vaguely.
It's ludicrous. It's like first of all, it's white. It's a white card, and it's like destroy target creature.
Yeah.
Unusual.
But it's a white card. It's destroy target creature, gain life equal to its power, and it's 1 to cast.
What?
It's massively overpowered.
It's ludicrous. Yeah. Anyway.
So the couple of new things that I played very briefly because I didn't play them for very long, and we're talking like demos. I've played a demo of Pizza Tower because it turns out there isn't a demo on Steam because I don't think they've made a demo for a while. Like the demo that you can find and play is, I believe, from like 2019.
Oh, so it's a really early build.
Well, no, it's not. It's not substantially different from the way the game looks now, as far as I can tell. And it seems like this is a specific demo they made for like a convention.
Oh, that would make sense. Yeah.
But yeah, functionally, it seems pretty much the same as the game. I mean, I've seen people talking about it and like it's supposedly slower than the real game, and it's already pretty fucking fast when you get going. But yeah, I mean, I played it and it's like, yep, this is very weird. And the sort of trappings of this special convention demo makes it even weirder in some ways.
Oh, right, because it's all clipped in some bizarre ways.
Well, it's because it's like the hub is specially made for this convention theme, essentially.
Right.
And then it makes a weird, like, Sonic the Hedgehog reference and stuff, which is just like, okay. But yes, yeah, I played a little bit of that. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm going to resist just fucking playing this game, mainly because I've heard a couple of music tracks and I'm just like, hell yes.
Oh man, stop it! Stop it! I've got too many games. I don't need one about 90s ass pizza characters.
Also, you're going to,
or do I?
Oh yeah.
Well, maybe you do, but like, what the couple of tracks I've listened to, I mean, they're great, but like, so one of them is the theme of the escape sequence, which is just called "It's Pizza Time" because that's what the game says.
It's pizza time.
When you trigger the escape sequence, it says it's pizza time.
I mean, every time we finish this podcast, we trigger.
Yes, it's also true. But then the second track, which is another kind of escape sequence song, and is maybe indicative of the titles of a lot of these other songs, is called "The Death I Deserve Ioli," which is just great.
What?
I just love that.
What is it?
The Death I Deserve Ioli.
Yearly.
Because, Italian puns.
Yeah.
Like alioli.
That's ravioli.
Ravioli. The death I deserve ioli. Okay.
But yes, that's the kind of. I mean, I can tell Rob was going to like it eventually once it got in there.
This is so good. Everything about this game sounds amazing.
But yes, so I played it, and it's like it is. It feels like it's basically speedrunning. It's like it's built for speedrunning. It's built for playing those levels repeatedly and learning the sequence, like learning where the enemies are to get through the fighting segment on the way in, and then learning the route to go out really fast. And then it's basically score attack based. You get your ranks at the end.
Yeah, I'd give it that much. Like, yeah, it gives you.
You get your CVAS and P.
Sweet.
They don't specify what P stands for. But you think
they don't have to.
You think you might know what it might stand for.
They don't have to.
So there's that. And the other thing I played very briefly in a demo was the demo of
How can you top that? See what it did there.
the demo of the new theatre rhythm on Switch.
Right, yeah. What was it actually called? Final
Bar Line.
Yeah, okay.
Not I forget what the subtitle of the previous one was. Curtain Call.
So, yeah, something like that. It's reviewed okay, that game. It's scoring an 87 on the league.
Well, the trouble is that like it's it's that game again, but they have. So there's two main things that I noticed that were different, distinctly different about it. Is firstly, it's like more difficult, not just because there's a fourth difficulty level, so you can turn it up even harder than the previous one, but because the new mechanic. I was sort of disappointed. It doesn't use the touchscreen at all, like even optionally. Because when you're doing the field songs that use the wiggly holds, I always preferred to do that on the DS's touchscreen with the stylus, because that just made it way easier. So you have to learn how to do it with the control stick version of the controls, which, if you were already used to that, not really a problem. It's just that I wasn't used to that.
Yeah, because it looked natural.
Yeah. It looked like you slide the stylus up and down, but now you just have to push the control stick up and down while you're holding the button to vaguely follow the shape of the line.
Right.
You don't have. It's not like you're not physically sliding the indicator up and down. It's just like if it's going downwards, you have to be pushing down.
I see. So
it's not like one-to-one positioning.
You're not moving the marker. It's just sort of like a hold action. But
yeah, pretty much. Well, or maybe it's like scaled in a weird way to make it seem like that. I don't know. I didn't really get a handle on it. But then the other thing that's different is
there's no trombone champ, is what you're saying.
No. The other thing that's different and makes it more complicated now is that they've added like double buttons, which you can see if you've seen any videos of it. They have double inputs. So the way that works is that when you're holding the controller, any button acts as the button input. So, like, literally any button on the Switch that is a button obviously not like the home button or whatever, but any normal button on the Switch acts as a button input. And then the control stick is for, like, the slide, directional slides and the slashers, like the small, the yellow arrows, where you just do a slash in a direction. So that's the same as the 3DS. But now there's double inputs, where if it's a slash that has two arrows, you have to use both control sticks to slash both arrows directions at the same time.
Right.
And then if it's a double button input where two buttons are coming along the line at the same time, you have to push two different buttons at the same time.
But it doesn't matter which two.
But then the way that gets even more complicated is that sometimes they do, if it's a hold, they'll have a hold end at the same time as another button press.
Oh, so you've got to switch between.
So you basically have to alternate pressing and holding two different buttons. And then, so it's like you have all these different button options, but then you have to try and work out which ones are going to be the most comfortable, because you kind of have to have your thumbs accessible on the control sticks to be able to do all those, like the slashers.
I see.
And you have to be able to push buttons at the same time.
Right, so you probably need your button presses to be the triggers.
Yeah, that's what I was using in the end, which obviously for the Switch is fine because they're buttons, they're not really triggers.
Yeah. And that'd probably be quite comfortable on a Pro controller.
Yeah. But yeah, that makes it quite a lot more complicated.
That sounds... That button switching thing sounds a little similar to how the rhythm mechanic of Unbeatable works, because that doesn't have very many buttons you need to press. There's like a left and there's basically an up and a down,
right?
Are like the only buttons, but it makes you sort of hold and switch between them.
But yeah, so I mean, it seems like a fine new version of that game, but I'm not sure it's like $70 fine.
Yeah.
And also, I mean,
is that actually its like launch price?
Yes.
Jeez.
And that's the base version. If you want the extra songs, you got like 90 and 100.
Pack, yeah. Bloody Square.
But yeah, like
as soon as Nintendo broke that $70 seal, I guess, like by saying Tears of the Kingdom is going to be $70.
But I don't think that was any. I don't think that influenced Square. I think that was probably. I think they probably chosen the price for this before that. But yes, even if you consider it on a like,
it's an awful lot of songs.
Well, yeah,
I'll give them that.
Even if you try and consider it on a like songs per pound scale, it's not actually as valuable as the 3DS one.
Right.
Like it's not proportionally that much bigger.
Gotcha.
I mean, obviously new mechanics count for some of that cost, but
but they've taken out the touchscreen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Isn't the position? Did we talk about this on the podcast already? But isn't this one kind of a weirdly positioned one anyway? Because it's sort of a back port of the arcade version.
It is a port of the arcade version of this game. But I mean,
but with more songs.
But who the fuck played the arcade version of this game?
I mean, not anyone.
Some people in Japan, probably.
Yeah, it'll be a Club Sega or whatever Club Sega now is.
So yeah, I mean,
Tomato Station, probably.
it really does just seem like another version of that game, but not a $70 version of that game.
Right, yeah.
So I'm probably not going to buy it. Although, it's a Square game, so maybe it will go on sale at some point. There's a small chance.
Yeah, pretty small.
More of a chance than Nintendo.
I mean, it's even smaller because it's got Final Fantasy in the title.
Yeah, that is the problem. So yeah, that's that.
Is that your gaming fortnight?
Yeah, well, yeah, and more like 4 weeks, and also I guess there is one more thing to talk about, which I'm going to talk about much more briefly. This week was going to be a multiplayer Minecraft week.
Oh.
But it really turned into a multiplayer Minecraft like 3 days because, god damn it, Minecraft has not got any easier to fucking get working with mods.
Well, Java Minecraft.
Well, yes, obviously.
Yeah.
But so at some point between probably the last time I played modern Minecraft and now, the mod community in general had decided to finally make the jump to modern Minecraft.
Oh, interesting.
So they've caught back up. Well, actually, they're now back to being a version behind, but that's pretty much caught up.
Sure.
They're on 1.18 and Minecraft's on 1.19 now. So a lot of these mods have basically had to either have been rebuilt from the ground up, and in some cases, old abandoned mods where the mod developer no longer worked on it, you've pretty much had to make those again from scratch. Someone new has had to just remake it. But apart from, it works. The problem that I was having is just you need a launcher to do this basically, because it's trying to install a whole list of mods manually would take fucking forever. I've done it before, but it's much easier to just go on these mod pack sites and just hit the button and it just gets 200 mods and then you're done.
I want this.
So we did that. The first one we tried was it was in one of those mod packs where it's got a bit out of hand, too many. You put too many in here, and it was just the server couldn't handle it. Every time it was trying to generate a new bit of terrain, there were so many mods fighting over what was going to spawn in that bit of terrain. It was just lagging the server up. Yeah. So we had to abandon that one. That was day one of not really playing Minecraft. And then on day two, we had to go to a slightly older version, and I was having this weird Java problem. So I'd got the most recent version of Java, which is the most which is what Minecraft needs, current Minecraft, not the up to date Minecraft.
Right, the new JVM.
Yes, the new JVM. So that's coincidentally, it's Minecraft 1.19, Java 19.
Okay,
they nicely line up.
Yeah.
But the packs we were playing needed 17, Java 17,
okay.
Minecraft 18. So you need to go back a step.
Oh, that's interesting. I thought the JVMs have always been backwards happy.
Well, that's the thing. So when I tried to launch it, it gives you a log during launch that tells you what's going on because the screen doesn't really show up, doesn't really tell you what's going on. But you look at this log, and I could see from the log it would get to a point where it's it's toggling it into Java 17 compatibility mode.
Sure.
And then it would do a bunch of stuff, and then it would crash. And then looking at the logs, as far as I can tell, what was happening was it was toggling it into Java 17 mode, but then it was still trying to use Java 19 features, which was just making it crash. Even though Minecraft should have wanted 17.
Yeah.
And I was what the fuck is going on? So eventually I had to get the Java 17 version in parallel and tell the Minecraft launcher to use that version. And then that didn't work for a different reason. It was giving me different crash logs that I couldn't even pass what the hell was going on. So we were well, that was day 2 of not really playing Minecraft.
Red.
And then it just started working. And I was great, thanks. No idea what the hell I did differently, but then it just started working.
Brilliant.
So then we did actually play Minecraft. Although, to be honest, the mod pack that we're playing is it's still got a lot of mods, but there's not many unfamiliar... Well, I mean, at this point, I guess there aren't really many unfamiliar mods, but we're not really doing much that we haven't done before.
Is there still no way of, modding the not Java Minecraft?
I don't know, because I've never seen it, so...
Yeah. Is there no community around modern Minecraft, double modern.
Yeah, I don't know what the situation with all that is. It was quite a big leap to where the whole modding community decided to make this step. I really think it might have just been because of one specific mod, because there was one specific mod that came out for like modern Minecraft. It was a very advanced bit of modding, considering like compared to all the other mods of the time. Whereas like it did really complicated things like multi-block structures that could move independently, so like they could do actual rotation and stuff.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Not just pistons like Minecraft does.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it could do a lot of like, it had like belts that were like physical belts, so the items would move along the
I love belts.
rather than pipes like most of the mods did. So there was that mod that came out, and it also has the most impressive like implementation of an in-game manual, essentially, because all of the old school mods have like a book basically where it just pops up like a book interface and you can just page through it and it has like an index or whatever. But this mod did like basically simulations where any item from this mod that was in the like list of all the items you could build, you could just hold a button down and it would pop up like a little view, and it would like simulate a whole building, showing you how all these parts link together in the context of this part you'd selected. So it'd be like, oh, here's the windmill bearing, and then you hold down the button and it just shows you how it functions with like, if you put the windmill bearing here and then you build the sails here and then you can toggle it to rotate one direction or the other and then transfer the power out with cogs, just in this like simulated window.
That's pretty cool.
It was so useful. But, I mean, no other mod has come close to getting that level of functionality in. You do occasionally get situations where they're like, if it requires you to build a specific multi-block structure that's quite complicated, you can, like, basically project it as a hologram into the world to tell you where you need to put the blocks to make it work. Some mods will do that, which is obviously helpful. But yes, this one specific ridiculous mod, I think, was probably the impetus for everyone to finally jump up to almost current modern Minecraft.
They're kind of like, oh, if this guy can do it, then everyone else, then we can.
Or like, everyone wants to play this new mod, so we need all these other old mods that people like.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did quite a lot of that, but maybe not as much as we wanted to, due to some technical problems.
Hardcore moderation.
And also my system can barely handle it, as usual. God damn it, Minecraft.
Modification. Not moderation. Can you have hardcore moderation? Like, you're so moderated.
I mean, I guess that's like moderation Nazis. They're cracking down on everything.
I guess. It's like cancel culture. Is that hardcore moderation?
I guess.
Well, moderate. Super moderate.
That's it.
So moderate.
Now Rob can tell us about nearly finishing Yakuza.
Well, yes, I can.
Please.
So I'm in the. I've made it up to the somewhat hilariously titled. Okay, so the game is structured. I was telling Zach about this earlier. It's real stupid. The game is structured into 5 parts, and they're normally called Part 1 and Part 2, and so on.
Imaginatively titled. Well, yeah.
Part 5 is called Finale, and now I've made it to. And within these parts, they have sub chapters, and I'm hilariously in the part of the game that was called Finale, Final Chapter.
Finale, final chapter. Is there going to be an epilogue? And
I bet.
Postscript.
There's always something. There's always some little extra event that happens at the end. Not usually anything hugely that requires a lot of player involvement, but there's usually something. Yeah, that game is real stupid. But like,
As always.
as you might expect, like it's proper dumb. But like, it's got to the point where like it's trying to. It's problematic in the sense that like you play through all these 4 parts leading up to this point are mostly separated, right? They're kind of almost their own self-contained mini stories that have like then at the end of them have a bit of a hook into the big picture. And then they all start coming together towards the end of part 4, and then really start kicking off in Finale. But the problem is like, because you've like, I don't know, I think I'm about 70 odd hours into this or something ridiculous at this point, some ludicrously high number. I kind of forgot. It's so easy to forget what has happened in the previous parts, and then it's sort of talking about characters, and you're like, oh yeah, that happened right at the start of the game.
And it's also probably not helped by playing several of these other games, where it's like, what happened in which game?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, if you're trying, it's probably easy to get slightly confused with the previous games. It's become. I've spent most of finale going. I not really understand what's going on. I don't really follow what's happening.
Is it that significantly different though? Like,
I mean,
the endings of those games, maybe not like story wise, but like structurally, are normally quite similar.
I mean, you're not wrong. There normally is there's the sort of same level of double crossing, and there's going to be a big bad, and he's probably not the big bad. There's probably another big bad, and that's totally kind of how that played out.
You're probably going to fight them in a skyscraper of some kind.
Oh, that's already happened. Well, I've already had a skyscraper rooftop fight in this chapter, which kind of then makes me question, is like, oh, okay, if we've already done that, what is the actual final fight? How's that going to work? But of course, this is all made extra dumb by the fact that this, like, part 3 was the Haruka storyline, right? So there's this whole dancing and pop idol element to it, which is super critical to this finale.
Okay.
But nobody really understands why. Like, there are hints at, like, the people involved, and the return of one character in particular is important, whom you really don't see for the entire game, and then turns up in this chapter, and I'm like, oh, missed opportunity, man. I won't spoil who. Okay, well, I'm going to spoil who it is. Fucking Majima.
Of course.
Come on.
Who do you think it's going to be?
So it's all coming together in this pop idol concert, and it's like the way it leads to that point is so convoluted and confusing and weird.
So do you do a final boss pop idol dance off?
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
Have you done the skyscraper fight, and the last fight is going to be the pop idol sequence?
Yeah. I mean, the skyscraper fight was really stupid anyway, because basically, like, okay, it was. I've been thinking, like, almost for the last 2 weeks, how is it possible to, like, do a synopsis of the entire plot of this game in a succinct way for the podcast? And I'm failing every time I try and think it through. There's no good way of doing it. But anyway, this particular fight, like, I guess the guy you thought was the big bad, like, who you sort of reveal isn't the big bad, but he knows it, and the rest of the characters all know that this fight on this rooftop is a setup. Everybody knows that it's a setup, and it's supposed to, like, and that the big bad is going to show as a result of them being in this situation. They know it's a trap. So what do? They have a fight. All 4 of them just fight each other, and it's like, and a bit of me's like, oh, it's the Yakuza way, and it's the only way we could draw out the big bad is, like, if we just go through with this trap. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't have to actually fight each other and, like, nearly murder each other in order for that to happen. And 2 of the people, like, most of the people on this rooftop are allies at this point. And they're just beating the crap out of each other.
Well, you have to make it look real.
Yeah, so when the bad guy turns up, he just has an easy ride over it. And there's a few more revelations, as Yakuza can't help itself being. Yeah. I also made the mistake of accidentally starting this sequence at 11 o'clock at night. God. And it was like a 2.5 hour long sequence of events. And it's like, oh God, I need to go to bed. I'm a tired dad. It's ridiculous. But it's also not as ridiculous as I would hoped, right? It's still not like Yakuza Kiwami level stupid.
Ah, still ramping it up.
Yeah, it's just too, like, a little bit too self-serious. And I know that's what some fans of Yakuza really like, but I'm more into when it's proper mad goofy. Which, as it turns out, I think is what a lot of people have a bit of a problem with Ishin new release, that it's like, but it sounds like it might be my kind of Yakuza, like leaning into the goofy side.
Well, it's inherently goofy, though, isn't it? Yeah. That's the whole point.
But some people that aren't really into that the goofiness and the cartoonish humour of Yakuza is bringing down Ishin, and I'm like, no, you're wrong.
I mean, it could have been cool to do a fully historical, sort of more serious take on that.
Oh, I mean, people have problems with that as well. Like
sure.
that Kiryu being on the wrong side of a violent empire, or being on the good side, I suppose, of a violent empire. By the end of it is problematic. It's like, well, it's not really, but it's just characters in a play.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to think of it as characters in a play. It's not actually Kiryu. Anywho, Yakuza 5. I'm still enjoying it, but it's still not a Kiwami, which makes the next one like really exciting because it's Yakuza.
Yeah.
Yakuza 0 next, which is when they supposedly
the
start
prequel,
finding
right?
this the Kiwami stance, I suppose. I think it was before the first Kiwami was 0, but it's in this more modern style. So
yeah, I think that will be a good one for sure.
I'm looking forward to that. I mean, Majima's on the box art, so
yeah, you can't go wrong there.
So I'm nearly done with that. So you're going to get another podcast of chat about it.
Well, maybe
it'll be mentioned. I finished the main story of Hi-Fi Rush as well.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Because that game is rock solid, awesome. It's as mentioned before, it continues to be good. The cutscenes are always fun, and the writing is always top spec. It's just a great game.
I saw it got a glowing review from Yahtzee Crowshaw, which is very unusual.
Okay,
very unusual.
Very unusual. Yeah, super. It just manages to pull off the rare treat of like it being a character action game with a flow that works, and as I sort of predicted last time, it's like you do eventually start finding that flow the more fights you get into. I think my previous gripes still stand. I think there is far too much downtime between fights. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a big fan of some of the mechanics that get introduced in the latter half of the game. Like the wind and fire is just a little bit irritating rather than cool, because it does that thing that like you really don't want any game to do in the middle of having a nice combat flow, which is, I've set myself on, I've been set on fire. I need to wiggle the stick to put myself out, which just feels especially unnatural in the fact
because there's no rhythm.
Because there's rhythm, yeah. So that's slightly odd. And some of the boss fights are just especially the last two. I think they're just really tricky to see what patterns they're doing. So I don't feel like I got a real handle on those, and sort of ended up just brute forcing my way through it. But I also discovered I kind of made the mistake that I played the game through on hard mode.
Right.
And it's one of those games, because it's a rhythm game, or trying to think that it's a rhythm game, is like you get the achievement for finishing in hard mode. You do not get the achievements for finishing it in easy and normal mode.
Well, is that a mistake? Because you wouldn't have got the other ones anyway.
What?
I mean, if you'd played it on normal, you still would have only got one achievement.
Yeah, I'd have got the normal mode achievement, but not the easy or the hard mode.
Yeah, so it's not really a mistake to play it on hard.
No, I guess not. But it means now I'm like, if I want to go achievement hunting, I have to go and play it through in easy now.
Sure, but then it'll be easy.
It'll be well easy.
Yeah, it'll be super easy. You'll get through it quick.
Yeah, I am finding it quite easy. And also, the game actually it has routes you can't get to because you didn't have the powers to get to them.
Right, yeah.
So at least when I'm going through the levels, I can find these extra bits.
So it's like a new game plus.
Kinda, yeah.
You get to keep the powers
all your abilities
that would let you get to those things.
Yeah,
but now you're playing it on easy.
But now I'm playing on easy. Yeah, it's weird. I'm discovering these. Every level has its own extra challenge room, which is sort of like the Bayonetta challenges or the Devil May Cry challenges, where it's like, we're going to mix up the rule set a little bit in here. Like, you can only damage enemies by parrying their attacks, and then you get 10 beats of being able to smack them down after a parry, for instance. And you've still got to do it within a time limit, or you can only attack stuff whilst you're in the air, or don't touch the ground, which sucked in Bayonetta. That was awful in Bayonetta, but here it works really well because you've got one of those magnet attacks that pulls you towards an enemy,
right?
So you can, as long as you've got enemies in the air, you can stay off the ground pretty easily, and it's pretty fun to do so. I love this thing. It's great. It's what an amazing surprise. And you can find the little Tango Gameworks snails hidden in the levels as well, and then some of those have little cute level based different animations. It's it's such a polished thing. It's great. Go and play Hi-Fi Rush if you've got Game Pass. You owe it to yourself. It's better than Devil May Cry. I'm going to just put it out there. It's better than actual Devil May Cry. Partially because I don't really like Devil May Cry other than DMC, but you know. It's better than Bayonetta 3.
Well, that's probably less of a controversial opinion.
Amazing.
Yeah, excellent thing. What else have I been doing? Not a huge amount outside of those two things, because I've had a slightly hectic schedule. But I am going to throw a curveball at you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I think I said a few weeks back I had sort of been playing Wipeout 2097 on emulation. I've continued to play Wipeout 2097, but this time on real bloody hardware.
Okay.
I've been playing the actual PlayStation 1 copy on my PS2 through the OSSE.
Semi-actual
hardware. I have got a PlayStation 1, but I thought I'd get the PS2 out, and I'll get to why
I think
in a second.
Might know why.
Yeah. What 2097 holds up. That's a hell of a game. It's like, okay, it's slightly awkward playing the higher speeds at 25 frames per second that game runs at in PAL territories, but and it's really bloody difficult at those difficulties, but it just feels so good. It's just, they got it right like early with Wipeout, and it's which makes the real reason I got the PlayStation 2 out all the more confusing, because I realised that I have never played Wipeout Fusion,
right?
The PS2 one, the uncool one.
Yeah.
Because it was made at a very weird time for Psygnosis and Studio Liverpool, because at that point they were no longer Psygnosis. They'd been bought by Sony. They'd been turned into Studio Liverpool, but I don't think all of the staff came with them when that happened. So Wipeout Fusion was kind of their first, what is the only PS2 Wipeout game, other than if you really want to count the PS2 version of Wipeout Pulse, which did happen. And I didn't realise that had happened until I was researching this again. But yeah, so it's the weird one, and they were like, it's got ideas that they supposedly had from the drawing room floor before they were making Wipeout 1. Like, oh hey, we've got pilots in this now. So not only do you pick a team, you pick between two pilots, which you have to unlock. So actually, at the point I'm at the game, it's like you pick a team, and then you can pick between one pilot. And they've all got hilarious faces. It's got to be pointed out. These faces are like
PS2 faces.
Yeah, PS2 era badly rendered faces. So in this weird like game that's attempting to be super stylish and cool and stuff like that, you've got these jank-ass faces in them. But I think this one didn't also have the Designers Republic helping them, so it was all kind of in-house design, and it shows dramatically. It isn't as cool looking. It's sort of got that vibe, that sort of almost PlayStation 1 era like rave vibe going on, but not quite. Like, it feels a little bit tackier around the edges. And I think that's fair to say about the whole game. It's really not a bad game. It's actually like, I kind of was expecting this to be bad. It's still pretty competent, and it's still good fun to play. But it's not as good as any other Wipeout game I've played. It's like that's definite.
Even Wipeout 64.
Wipeout 64, yeah, which is probably my other least favorite Wipeout, but it at least has something going for it. It handles differently, but it's still overtly a Wipeout game. This has such a different feel to how it drives and how the air brakes work, and jumping is just such a weirdly stiff thing now. Like, it's lost its float in a strange, like, the game has lost its float and the bounce and the oddity that all that is, and that's kind of a critical part to Wipeout, to feel like your anti-grav isn't super stable, that it's got to be sort of like a little bit wafty and a little bit weird. Okay, it's not as no game has ever been as bouncy as the first two Wipeouts. Those were like Bounce Haven.
Right, yeah. Bounce Haven.
Yeah.
Come visit beautiful Bounce Haven.
Slam into the floor with all your metallic might. It's no game has been like that, and so the handling in this feels quite like flat. Like, you stick to the track pretty the craft don't waft around, or even when you're like turning into a corner, they don't feel like they're sliding nearly as much as they did before. And the air brakes kind of feel weirdly instantaneous rather than floaty and like, I'm gradually sliding into a turn. Like you'll push the air brakes and they'll have like an instant effect of to rotate your craft. They feel weirdly digital. But yeah, saying all that, it's still a pretty good anti-grav racer. It's like I'd probably take it over most anti-grav racers that don't have Wipeout or F-Zero in the title. It's just really interesting to go back to. That was the thing. Also, PS2 games seem to work better through the OSSC than PS1 does. PS1, as it turns out, like puts out a strange resolution that my TV doesn't like. If you try to, so I have to oversample it. And then the OSSC will limit it to a 1080 shot. But that means I lose vertical screen space. So I've got a slightly cropped picture from the PS1 running on the PS2. If that makes sense. So I might need a scaler to do that properly, or to run it through a monitor that can handle the weird resolution that this thing wants to kick out. Because it should be pointed out that the OSSC is just a line doubler; it's not a full-on scaler. So it's if your console is putting out a weird low resolution, it can only put out a multiple of that weird low resolution. So, and you have to hope the monitor you're feeding that signal to is happy about that. And my TV is not, unfortunately, for ones that will fit on the screen perfectly. But I'm still having a good time. Wipeout Fusion. It's a strange one. It's the least cool Wipeout, but it's still a good game.
Yeah.
And I was going to talk about Wipeout.
Did you play the one, the last one, the PS Vita one?
2048. I've played it as part of the Omega collection.
Right, yeah, okay.
But not on its own.
Yeah, same, yeah.
There's not a huge amount of difference. Apparently, like the Omega collection version of 2048 is basically the
close.
Same, like HD Fury is in Omega collection. It's just
cool.
they handle the same. The only difference is the soundtrack, really, and a few visuals. I was going to be playing Wipeout 1. I've tried to, because I don't have a copy of that. So I tried to get hold of a copy of Wipeout 1. But due to a clerical error, courtesy of CEX,
again,
they sent me they sent me a copy of Wipeout 3, which, if you'll remember, the branding, I can sort of understand why, because Wipeout 3 was branded as Whip 3 Out. So I can see like someone in the distribution center or whatever, or wherever they store their retro games, sort of looked like, it was an order for Wipeout. Oh, that one says Wipeout, but it's stylized with a 3 in the middle of the... No, that still reads as Wipeout. That's fine. Send that out. So I've now got a copy of Wipeout 3 and Wipeout 3 Special Edition, so oh well. The box art for Wipeout 3 is dead cool, though. So fine.
Wipeout 3 is the pinnacle of the... Not the pinnacle of the gameplay, but it is of the cool.
Yeah, it's the daddy of style. Wipeout 3 is that's another fantastic one. I'm going to play that again before I put the thing away. And I'm slightly worryingly, though, I went through all the my PS1 memory cards, to try and find space, for one thing. And but also, I'm pretty sure 2 of mine are dead, which now has me worried. It's like, oh god, what is on that memory card? I better not be the one with my Final Fantasy VIII saves on it.
God, who cares?
I know.
Play Final Fantasy VIII again if you want.
That means we need to do a whole video series on Final Fantasy VIII.
Not on real hardware, though.
We did. We started, but then we had a failed recording, and that we haven't gone back to it since.
And you're not going to need memory cards for that.
Not on PC, no.
It'll happen. It's you've got the choice. You do Final Fantasy VIII or you do Final Fantasy VII with new graphics and changed story.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Or just play Final Fantasy IX.
Or play Final Fantasy.
Or FF9.
I mean, either of those would be happy with. That'd be another long-ass series.
Of course.
It's going to take us more
Any Final Fantasy game will be a long-ass series.
It's going to take us over a year to finish one of those, but...
I think we need one because we keep running out of ideas for the video, so...
I mean, we could just play all of the Wipeouts, like do my anti-grav racing series.
Yeah. Is that as good for commentary though? I
Oh,
don't know.
probably not.
Maybe.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
It's not going to have some like weird like story beats that nobody understands.
No.
But it also doesn't have so much grind, unless you count grinding the walls. That's pretty much what I've been doing. Yeah, Wipeout.
Cool.
Oh, I picked up 2 more things in my retro splurge, but I will talk about them another time when I get around to playing them. So one of them's real weird, and then one of them's just a punt because I saw it and was like, "Oh, I know the story behind this. I'm going to check this out." Tease. There you go, tease. And the other one's a much more obvious one that I've been after for a while. There you go. That's my tease for next podcast. If I get around to it for next podcast.
So look forward to that next time if Rob has any time away from maybe miles per hour, and look out for our YouTube channel where you can find currently Sonic Lost World, which is interesting for the commentary. I don't know about playing it, but it's quite funny.
I quite like. Yeah. Not to toot my own horn, I quite liked the blurb I wrote on this one, where it's just like Sonic made a mistake, and I also may have made a mistake by recommending this.
It's okay. We'll just replace it with an epic Final Fantasy series that never ends.
Oh boy,
cool. But until then, we'll leave you to it, guys. Thanks for listening.
Do whatever you're doing. Go do it.
Whatever you're doing, continue or go and do that. Play some games.
You know what that means?
We'll be back. What's that?
What does that mean?
Pizza time.
It's time to get
play the song.
Yeah.
Am I going to have to clip
us out? It's pizza time.
Am I going to have to clip the "It's Pizza Time" song out of the game now?
No.
Play the pizza time song. We'll catch you in a couple of weeks for another sidecast. Goodbye.
Pizza time.
Have your pizzas.
Pizza.